The Actylus Empire is known to be rich in heirs, with the strongest of them taking the throne of the empire. Since time immemorial, it has been the custom that all heirs want to get the crown in order to become the main ruler to whom they will obey. This means only one thing: the one who survives becomes the emperor. To do this, you need to participate in the massacre with the others, and at the same time be the strongest enough to win by killing other rivals. Of the children of the previous ruler, the youngest took the throne. He was able to make everyone else fall, despite his work and age. Everyone around became aware of the name of the new emperor at the succession ceremony, to which the boy appeared at the age of 13. After the young man completed his work, he braided the hair of the murdered brothers and sisters and brought them to his father. He pointed his sword at them, as if asking them to admire how everyone else had lost after a competition that wasn't even that difficult. The insidious man praised his son's exploits in every possible way. He tried to talk to him so that he could later say that the time had not yet come, but this did not happen. At that very moment, a sharpened blade pierced the chest and pierced the heart. The young prince pretended as if nothing was happening. He stood, smiling innocently, right in front of his father, who was choking while trying to grab onto the last drops of air that could not do anything. Smiling lightly, the blonde did not even ask for forgiveness for what he had done, arguing that he was tired of waiting. One day he thought about it and realized that he wanted to ascend to the throne as quickly as possible because he was annoyed by the fact that there was someone, at least a little, more important in the empire. This boy was none other than the current emperor of Actylus, Raniero Actylus. He is known throughout the empire, and people, knowing his strength and the exact method by which he ascended the throne, continue to fear more than fire. The priest asks if the man wants to live under the protection of the god Ailra, so that family relationships will be strong for all eternity. The girl standing next to her shudders, because she can describe all the sadness of what is happening. It was then that the main character realized that she was finished. She doesn't know how to even open her mouth to express her feelings, or even agree with what is being asked of her. The oath must be taken now. The brunette glares at the girl. He doesn't say anything, but at the same time it's clearly noticeable that he demands an immediate answer, which is inaudible. Gritting her teeth and wiping away tears, the heroine still says the long-awaited yes. In this case, the couple can continue. They must complete the ceremony as soon as possible before the blonde gets bored with everything that is happening. The voice makes you shrink even more. In this case, the couple can exchange rings so that they can finally end it all. Even the priest does not want to stand nearby, so as not to fall under the hot hand of the emperor, who can lose his temper at any moment because of a trifle. The blonde reaches for the ring. She tries to be more careful, but her hands continue to shake. If the thing accidentally falls to the floor, then the heroine's head will fly after it in the next 5 minutes, or even earlier, which, of course, is frightening. A man standing behind watches as everyone puts on their ring, and then asks to seal the oath with a kiss. The beauty closes her eyes in anticipation of what is about to happen. Nothing happens even for the next minute. The girl gradually opens her eyes, not understanding what exactly is wrong. Perhaps the guy is just trying to skip this moment because the bride is disgusting to him. Just a few centimeters from the face is Raniero's face. He stares intently, sparkling with his scarlet eyes, as if he himself is waiting for something. I want to run away from the hall, leaving everything behind, but I have to stay in one place without moving and the right to speak. Grinning sharply, the hero says something, making the girl even more nervous. She doesn't notice anything that happens around her because she only cares about what happens next. I don't want to die because of some mistake. Grabbing the beauty by the waist and pulling her closer, the young man continues to smile. He leans closer to be close to your ear and talks about the boredom that almost overtook him. If the girl had opened her eyes 5 seconds later, then everything would have been over. A kiss ensues that, even in slow motion, takes your breath away. It's hard to believe, but it was at this moment that the main character entered the novel and discovered that she was reborn at a wedding ceremony with a crazy villain emperor from whom she could not escape. This man is truly the most furious and, in God's time, cruel. As you know, he had a blonde acquaintance who fell in love with the Holy Knight of Eden. Anger seized the young man quite quickly, so he killed him. Seraphim was so worried that she went crazy, so she lost control and fell into a high level of rage. She could not survive such a loss because she loved her boyfriend more than anything in this world. the emperor was trapped by fate. These words are the prologue to the short story, Flowers Grow Even in the Abyss. There are many different characters in this book, each of whom has their own wonderful story that would not end in a tragic end. For some reason, the beauty who made it into history became an empress who was not so famous. There was almost no information about her, so she shouldn't expect great luck and a bright future. In a society where everyone can have only one spouse and divorce is impossible, in the Actalus Empire, a second marriage is allowed only after the death of the partner. After the man kidnapped the saint, the first thing he did was kill his wife so that she would not interfere with building his future. The Empress, whose name was not even known, loses her head at the very beginning of the novel. The girl was lucky in that she became exactly that, so this of course saddens her. It's scary to even think about your future, which will never happen. Perhaps this is a punishment from the author for leaving a review that is not good. It's not the girl's fault, because a similar short story was sold in the romance department and disappointed the heroine to the core. Before getting into the story, the beauty read many books in which heroes move into other bodies, but usually they move into the body of a villain. They change the course of the original story, avoiding the crimes committed by the villain himself, thereby saving their lives. Everything should have gone according to the script, but for some reason the maiden moved into the body of the most inconspicuous secondary character, who didn't even do anything. The lady does not know how to avoid her fate. Now the blonde is thinking that it would be better if she were a villain. In this case, she could at least try to act contrary to the original story, but now we can only guess what can be done. If the heroine had appeared in this world before marriage, the first thing she would have done would have been to do everything to avoid it. One option would be to fake your own death, throwing the doll off a cliff, and then run away from the empire. Another option is taming the emperor, which seems quite possible, but definitely not in this world. The girl begins to go crazy because she forgets the true character of a tyrant who doesn't care about everyone around her except herself. One can imagine how Raniero would react to someone's attempt to mindlessly tame him. Maybe it would be possible to try if there were at least 9 lives, but in this situation, this is not an available option. In any case, the girl doesn't want to die so easily. She is scared because of what awaits her if nothing is done. All that remains is to live as if she were already dead, but not quite. This is a suitable option for an extreme case that has come. It was said that in the story, His Majesty never visited the Empress after his marriage. She tried to carefully protest the way their family life was going, but this was precisely the biggest mistake. The girl reminded herself too often, without letting herself be forgotten therefore. As soon as the prince brought the saint to the city, he immediately got rid of the annoying toy, which could not calm down. The virgin is not going to commit such rash acts. She values her life, and even more so her freedom. On the day when her husband goes to the temple for seraphim, the blonde will pretend as if she died and run away as soon as she can find a way out. Most likely, Actalus will not seek confirmation of the Empress's death, since after all, the heroine was killed so that the saint would take her place in the future. If his wife doesn't interfere, he will be only happy, so he won't bother. After realizing what needed to be done, the girl literally caught fire with this idea. It turned out that everything was much simpler than she thought, so all that remained was to bring everything into reality as quickly as possible. Covering her eyes from calmness, the girl blushes lightly. She knew that she was worrying in vain, so now she is just glad how everything will end for her. A man's voice addresses the Empress. His Majesty wants to know how long the beauty is going to stand still and pretend as if she doesn't notice anyone around her, much less hear anything. The eyes light up with an evil fire. The blonde may believe that they are trying to ignore him, so he reacts in a similar way, while trying to remember everything from what he did with people in the past. The girl tries to remain calm, but understands perfectly well that this is not good. She doesn't want to die prematurely, so the first thing you need to do is watch your behavior so as not to fall under the hot hand. Everything had already been decided, and the lady even decided to be inconspicuous so that her face would not even be noticed even after the wedding. But in a second, she managed to ruin everything, as if the original plan had been forgotten. The girl almost immediately declares that she would never dare to behave so disrespectfully. She wants to go forward to say something else, but she trips and falls. The body stretches across the floor, causing the lady to quietly hiss in pain. The queen tries to get up slowly, but so that her husband does not get bored while she is doing this. The only plus is that the heroine was able to answer quite quickly, which couldn't help but rejoice. Raniero, as everyone around him knows, hates boredom. Everything should go smoothly in his presence. Even Seraphima in the novel was tortured because she was sometimes slow to answer. Countless servants suffered for the same reason, or because the emperor did not like them. You have 5 seconds to answer. But, nevertheless, however, are words that are prohibited for pronunciation near a man. Now the blonde forces the girl to raise her head and explain her actions before she herself gets worse. There is absolutely no time to think, so the beauty says what first comes to mind. She has a chronic illness that causes her to pass out with her eyes open. It even sounds almost plausible. The girl did not calculate the timbre of her voice, so she almost shouted every word. Switching to a whisper, she repeats everything the same, but receives a slight rebuke. The letter that was sent from the kingdom of Unro did not even say a word. The brain has to be turned on full blast, but in reality nothing happens. The beauty tries to justify herself, saying that this happens so rarely that no one attaches any importance to it. The face reveals true thoughts and the lie itself. Perhaps this was provoked by the presence of His Majesty. A timid person like her has trouble adapting. A temperament like His Majesty's is difficult for even the strongest to bear. Coming closer, the young man nods his head. He leans closer to the girl's face to ask if it's his fault. The obvious seems scary, so the blonde instantly freezes, trying to find a new answer. In any case, it is still possible to find a way out of any situation. The beauty gives the example of the sun. Anyone who looks directly at the sun will immediately go blind, but no one will blame him for this, because the fault lies with the person who did it. Covering her face with her palms and lying on the floor to show her bow, the lady once again hears the man begin his sentence. She wants him to finally leave, because the fantasy of such phrases has long ended. The young man grins. Angie is going to look at him until her last day, just so as not to lose consciousness. If His Majesty allows this to be done, then the girl will be happy to carry out any order that is given. The hero is silent, but then says that he allows everything. The lady is about to get up, but realizes in time that she doesn't know exactly what she's allowed to do. She looks at the shoes that are on the hem of her dress. Choosing the wrong one will be as scary as not making a choice in 5 seconds. If you try to look, then perhaps everything will be fine, because, choosing the lesser of evils, the virgin gradually raises her head and eyes. Sitting down on one knee, the blonde praises his wife. Obviously, she made the right choice, which has kept her alive so far. All you have to do is try to calm down and not show your fear so openly. The hero made the right decision. Now he is not bored, which is good news. This can be seen right on his face, because his gaze no longer seems as scary and withering as it was a little earlier. The girl begins to hiccup, while trying to quickly cover her mouth with her hand, or simply close it. You can't let anything else make it end. This sound is not because of the disease, but because she is still alive, and this makes her happy. The girl turned out to be quite smart. She is not too proud. If she did something wrong, she immediately bows down and answers immediately. If the Empress really is like that, then this is good for the reputation and the empire as a whole. Raniero was amused by the behavior, so he had some mercy. He offers to ask him any question, to which he will definitely answer. This option is also difficult, because if you don't like something, hysterics will be thrown again. Trying to quickly figure out what exactly needs to be said, the lady quickly says that she heard that Actylus himself chose her. I want to know why the choice fell on this particular person, so after everything that has been said, the girl falls silent. Constricting his throat much more than before, the hero tuts in disappointment and then turns in the other direction. This question turned out to be too predictable, so it was disappointing. Answering something like this can make you go crazy with boredom. The gaze again becomes like ice, so the girl involuntarily shudders a little and shrinks. She stumbled again when she was given a choice of what to say to the king. Letting go of his neck, the blonde gets up from his seat. He turns to walk away, still looking the same dissatisfied. He will not do anything because he promised to spare his wife, but this does not mean that next time everything will be the same. The hero heads forward to the window. On the way there, he starts talking about the moment when he announced his marriage. After this, all the aristocrats immediately sent photographs of their daughters, of which there were a lot. According to the young man, There were so many photographs that it was possible to fill all the walls of the room in which they are located. Nobody cared that it would be a big job. Opening the curtains, the blonde turns back. His lips stretch into a strange smile, which makes all his intentions clear. He ordered that the portraits be hung lengthwise, precisely because he himself wanted it. The young man did not do this because he wanted to remember the faces, because such things do not interest him at all. His Majesty's face is the most beautiful in the world, so it is logical that he would not want to look at someone else who is less beautiful. The gaze shifts to the wall, which is located next to the girl, still sitting on the floor. There's a huge cutout on it, as if someone had already hit it with a knife or a blade that was inserted there. Then, when the young man chose his wife, he sat in the same place as now, directly opposite the wall on which were hung many photographs sent by aristocrats. The hero did not intend to hit the one he liked, so he threw at random. In the end, it turned out that he managed to hit the left eye of the blonde, who hung above all the others. His choice fell on that same girl. Now, sitting in a deserted room in which there are only two people, Actilus bursts into laughter, which is more reminiscent of the laughter of an abnormal person. He made sure everything worked out as it should. Raniero almost immediately takes back his words about boredom and madness. At the time, it was still fun for him to do something like that, because at that moment it lifted his spirits a little and made him have fun. The hero suddenly declared that the beauty was not at all funny and cheerless. Leaving the room at a slow pace, the man says that he is going to go get some sleep. He didn't say that the Empress was terrible, so this could be considered a plus. Almost leaving the premises, the handsome man begins to think. He wants to know what exactly the Queen's name is, because the companion of his life has never even introduced her first name or surname, which is known from the kingdom. Virgo is silent, not knowing what exactly to say. The thought of telling your true name is spinning in your head. No one knows the real initials of the Queen, who was not someone significant, which means something like this could work. Raising her head higher so that her moody gaze can be clearly seen, the girl says that her name is Angelica Vineyard de Unro. Still, I managed to remember the heroine's true name, so I didn't even have to lie. Close people call the girl Angie. A name like this is great because it's short and sweet to use. The blonde asks him to avoid getting confused by remembering too much unnecessary information. Raising his foot, the hero puts his shoe against the beauty's chin, telling Angie to continue in the same spirit. It seems that the adaptation is going quite well so far, or something will go wrong in the future. Letting go of the girl, the young man turns around. He understands that very soon he will get tired of what is happening, and then without any problems, he will get rid of his wife, who will most likely only interfere with solving problems in life. Smiling, Angelica promises that she will try to improve. She knows that she needs to be more careful in order to at least wait for Seraphim to arrive at the palace with the Emperor, who fell in love with her at first sight. Turning around, the hero chuckles. If the woman herself says that she will do everything possible to be better than before, you need to listen to the words that come out of her mouth. As soon as the door slams, the blonde falls exhausted onto the cold floor. I can't believe that I still managed to cope with the pressure that was coming against her. This makes your soul feel better. It was lucky that the beauty remembered the heroine's name quite early, and that she was not killed for taking too long to answer. She's not sure if Unro was the queen when Seraphim arrived, because her name wasn't mentioned in the novel, but it worked anyway. It turns out that Angelica was killed shortly after the wedding due to some stupid mistake she made. Raniero's wife in the novel was another girl, who was already the fifth of those who were taken as wives. The wedding day ended well, so the girl hoped that there would be no further threats to her life and her entire future. However, in the end, it turned out that every day would be more difficult than the previous one. The Emperor, who is in the same bed with the girl, asks her to turn back and not toss and turn in bed. He counts to 3 until she stops trying to change position. Angie didn't expect to hear a man's voice, so she almost instantly jumps up from her seat, trying to understand how exactly the character ended up in her bedroom, much less in the same bed with her. The blonde didn't want to go back to his chambers, so he decided to stay. This serves as an answer to a question that was purely accidentally asked out loud, instead of leaving it in your head. Even if the words weren't spoken out loud, it still wouldn't affect anything. The wife's every thought is written on her face, even the one she is trying to drive out of her head, thereby making it quite obvious. The hero grins, letting go of the girl's face. He cannot believe that a woman wakes up after 9 o'clock, because it means that she is lazy, which cannot be the true quality of a high-ranking person like her. The imperial couple woke up too late, but the heroine cannot understand why no one woke her up. She is not used to getting up on her own, and now she receives accusations from her own husband for this. The girl is boring and uninteresting. This is not the first time Raniero has said something like this, but this time his gaze seems colder than usual. You can understand that he is clearly dissatisfied with something. Yesterday, the same person said that he had chosen Unro, but in the morning his mood changed, which made everything much better. Thoughts are interrupted by a woman's voice calling for Her Majesty. The head maid promises that the woman will be helped to get ready for a new day, which must be met well. The first thing you need to do is take a bath, and in this matter, the beauty completely trusts others because she doesn't want to think about anything. After 10 minutes, the main character is already sitting in warm water, which smells a little like vanilla and roses, which literally float in the water in the form of petals that the staff added. The words that were spoken by the husband were more than enough to understand where this would lead. The man will never come to his wife again, despite the fact that she tried to do everything as best as possible. For now, all that remains is to look for some way to escape as far as possible so that she cannot be found. The girl doesn't know exactly how to do this, but she understands that this is also very important. The maid washes Her Majesty's hair, trying to remain as neat as possible. The girl asks what date it is today, and receives the answer that it is already the 19th of May. This date means that it is warm outside, which means that there is still quite a lot of time left. Raniero and Serafina met in the frosty winter when he arrived for the meeting. As you know, in the original story, in the middle of winter, the emperor met the saint in the temple of Thunia, and after that, he decided to act immediately because he liked her. 7 months is not such a short period of time. You need to try not to give away your fear, which is actually creeping out. No one knows what can happen in such a long time, so there is only one conclusion. You should be extremely careful. Until the night, all that was remembered about Angelica was her name. Nothing more was unknown due to the new man found in the body. The very next day, the memories of this character were transferred to the head. The girl is the second princess of the Unro kingdom. She has an older brother, an older sister, and a younger brother, who all look roughly similar to each other, as does the rest of the family. The fact that the heroine remembered family relationships is a good sign. Angie is a member of the royal family, so she must have learned some basic geography and history. The girl herself has a lot of information in addition to the original story. With such knowledge, it will become clear which country you still need to flee to. It must be a country whose borders are close to the palace, and the place must not be hostile to the empire or not heavily guarded. It doesn't matter whether the state is strong or weak, because in the future, it can always be changed to something more prestigious. Life is much more important than comfort. By spring, the empire will fall anyway, so it's not so important where you need to live for 6 months. Beauty hopes that everything will work out perfectly, just like she plans in her head. Serafina, the main character of the original story. The holy knight Eden is her unrequited love, and the main character of the story is Raniero, a brilliant but tyrannical monarch who really doesn't care about anyone. If a man kills a holy knight, then he will go down the path of disaster with Holy Thunia. After such an outburst, the empire, which is completely dependent on an outstanding monarch, will fall. Nothing remains of everything that has been built over thousands of years. For now, the most important goal remains exactly the same as before. The girl must survive and gather strength to organize herself as well as possible, given the situation in which she had to find herself. The chief maid, who, as usual, interrupts the flow of thoughts about the future, calls for Her Majesty. The Empress must eat, and breakfast has already been prepared for her, which has not yet had time to cool down. While wine is being poured into a glass, the girl only thinks about whether she is allowed to eat food in such comfort in her room without meeting her husband, who is disliked by her. The maids, as it turns out, are much more professional than most books or novels show. They try not to pay attention to anything, simply doing what they are ordered and what they are obliged to do. No one is trying to make friends with the queen or please. Such relationships maintain an ideal distance. The girl is going to run away to freedom, but if she gets closer to one of them, big troubles could arise, which of course you don't want to experience. Looking down at the plate, the queen realizes that it is best not to do anything that could interfere with the escape. The best option is to act like a cold-blooded empress who also doesn't care about anyone, just like her hubby. Looking up, The lady tries not to smile too much when asking a question that interests her. She is already quite content in the palace, but no one has said what each of them is called. The brunette steps forward, bowing her head. She's a little late with her greeting, so she apologizes almost immediately. The name is never given, but it is said that the woman is the mother of the Marquis Jacques, known in wide Actilus circles. Next in line is a beautiful blonde with neat hair tied in a bun. She is the wife of Count Locke, and her name is Miran. The greeting is quite normal, because after the name they always add, "I am honored to serve the majestic Empress." Suspicion creeps into consciousness almost at the speed of light. Marquises, countesses, and duchesses have gathered here, and the strange thing is that each of them is from some noble family, instead of an ordinary family from which one can get to serve in the palace. The feeling of discomfort does not leave the girl, and at the same time it seems to fetter her body. She looks around, but trying to hide her condition, she does not notice obvious things that are actually difficult to notice, only for her. Pushing her thoughts away, Angie thanks everyone for their hard work. Everything around her seems new, so the girl would be grateful if someone guided her until she manages to get used to it and start doing everything on her own. After this, the lady just nods. This answer suits the queen quite well, so she smiles. The first step is to ask what the girl's plans are for the day. The marquise assures that there are no official meetings scheduled for this day. After breakfast, you can relax or go for a walk, because this is also considered a kind of relaxation. If everything is fine, then the queen will take the day off. She is going to get used to it a little before everyday life begins, which will become overwhelming due to the amount of work that will happen. There are still 7 months left, so Unro can afford to rest for at least a day. The next day, everything happened again. The brunette, who came in the morning, even without asking a question, said that the beauty had absolutely no business to do. Only a few days passed, but each of them passed at the same pace. Every morning the maid said that there were no classes and offered to rest or do other things. The realization came too late, but the Empress had absolutely no important things to do. All day long she did nothing but enjoy the company of herself and the maids, who sometimes came in to check on her condition. Now it became clear what strange feeling haunted the beauty on the very first day. She had to go through several days to understand that the maids simply did not allow Angelica to work. It was as if they didn't want her to ruin something and get punished. It is clear that they did not demand anything special from the Empress, but there will also be questions about this. Examples include checking various departments, approving the palace budget, friendships with noble ladies and other people. The girl needs to get acquainted with the documents for the last year, then she can start at least some work. The queen did not think that she would have to be the first to ask for such a thing. The maids are real professionals. They behave politely so as not to get caught, and if the beauty speaks up about the problem, she will be the only strange person to embarrass herself. No one accepts the girl, so she is treated like a stranger. In fact, this kind of attitude is starting to irritate me incredibly. On the one hand, when you can relax peacefully, without thinking about what is happening in the palace, however, it will not be possible to continue in the same spirit. Angie brought with her a maid who was with her back in her native estate. She was the first to know that the lady was marrying Emperor Actilus, and until the last she refused to believe it, because she wanted the woman to be happy without such a tyrant. That girl's name is Cician. According to the stories of others, they were very close, so knowledge of this and also memories helped a lot. The book did not even talk about the Empress herself, not to mention the extras in the form of such a person. The next day at breakfast, the beauty decided to raise the issue of her maid. She remembers that she was brought to the castle, but after that no one saw her, because for several days the main maid asked not to think about it. The question seems to shock the woman. She freezes, while glaring at the mistress with a strange look. It becomes obvious that she wants to say something, but before that, in her head, she carefully tries to choose everything. To become a worthy servant of Actilus, you need to undergo training again. If you bring a girl from another country, this does not mean that she will be worthy of work in the country in which she is currently located. The heroine nods her head. She understands that this option, although long, nevertheless explains what is happening around. The only question is why no one said anything. There is no answer, because only killing silence is heard. If Angie had been Raniero, they would have answered her almost immediately. Deciding to start a conversation on her own, the blonde assures that she has nothing against it. But if she is the owner of that girl, then she has every right to know what is happening and where the employee is being sent without her knowledge. The woman asks to bring her so that she can look at her friend. The brunette feigns groans, justifying everything by saying that the mistress didn't ask anything, which means she knows everything in advance. This cunning fox decided on her own that it was worth starting a fight. An insidious smile appears on the face, which is disguised as a sweet one. The queen says that it is her fault, thereby admitting defeat. It seems so to others, but in reality the battle is just beginning. This maid is fed by her own pride, so if you follow the logic, she will not be able to say anything against it if the queen herself deigns to apologize. A mug of water lands on the table with a thud. The water splashed a little, but no one pays attention to it. The woman is raging because she thought that that girl didn't understand anything at all, but she turned out to be a monster. Marquis Jacques asks his mother to calm down. He turns his gaze from the water, which has completely spilled over the table, to his interlocutor, asking her to tell him what really happened while he was away from the empire. That girl tried to fight the head maid. She came from a small country and should know her place. Instead, the new queen tries to gain the trust of the others, thinking that she can do absolutely anything. The sister of the Marquis Jacques comes to the cry. She quietly opens the door, asking what happened. The girl's name is Sylvia, a beauty with white hair that reaches her lower back. The mother sighs, shaking her head heavily, as if she was made to worry more than ever. If her daughter became an empress, she would definitely not have to worry so much. She failed in her place because they chose another person. No one ever objected to this child becoming the emperor's wife. Sylvia's own family literally pushed Sylvia forward to get rid of her as quickly as possible, because everyone understood that Raniero was a restless person who was difficult to cope with. There were so many people lining up that it was impossible to even count. Each of them wanted the Marquis to nominate a contender for the role of Empress, thereby saving their daughters from a similar fate. No matter how much I wanted that maiden to ascend the throne, the second princess of the kingdom of Unro ended up there. No one even knew about her existence as such, but now she sits in her chambers in the imperial palace, without any worries. It is a pity that the daughter missed her marriageable age while she was waiting for an answer from His Majesty. The woman was shocked that the girl who was lucky enough to become the new ruler looked at the maid with frightened eyes, literally screaming that this situation was not the best. In any case, the choice was made by the emperor. You shouldn't hate him so much, because the ruler in the empire is the most important, so he is free to do exactly as he sees fit until the people begin to protest, pointing out a mistake. The brunette grunts with a dissatisfied look. That worthless girl probably has incredible skills in bed, since the man chose her. Sylvia once again asks her mother to be more careful with her words. Anger at the response manifests itself quite quickly. The Marquise does not want to hear all this, because she had to wait so long for her daughter's value to only drop by half. Now no future will be good. It is useless to try to do at least something to achieve a long-forgotten dream that will now never come true. The beauty also understands this, but is not so sad, just because of such a trifle. Tears accumulate in the corners of the eyes, and the cheek begins to turn red from the blow of the palm. The lady can no longer withstand such moral pressure, so she jumps up from her seat, running out the door all in tears and slightly touching her brother. There's nothing to worry about. As you know, His Majesty does not visit the Empress after midnight, which is already a plus because they are not completely alone. The man is a deputy minister and moreover a marquis. The emperor is not at all interested in that woman, so if he finds a reason, he will destroy her with his own hands without leaving a crumb. The young man's character is explosive, so all the couple needs is a reason to blame the girl. You won't need to put in too much effort to do this. The Marquise's mother grins. That girl definitely has a lot of flaws, so it won't be absolutely difficult to find and expose at least one of them. Even the king himself makes decisions based on personal gain. He cares about people, but at such moments it is best to do something good for himself. He has one principle that he adheres to and never changes. Anything that harms the country must be eliminated immediately. That is why the empire is experiencing a period of unprecedented dawn, because all the people who have ever wanted or want evil have long been destroyed by the hands of a young man. Now, as the hero previously told his mother, he needs to find a reason, so he will be assigned to do this himself. The best option is to substitute the new empress, forcing the empire to rejoice at a good person again. After a while, It was time to approve the budget. Only the emperor and empress have this power, who usually distribute it quite rationally throughout the empire. Now the queen is not working at all. She became accepted as if she were one of her own, so she is forced to sit in one place all day long while being terribly bored by what is happening around her. Tea parties became the only entertainment. The girl wanders around in search of her maid, who has gone to training. Everyone should understand perfectly well that this is an obstacle to the prosperity of Actilus, which can be eliminated very soon. Cician is back. Several days after returning passed quietly, because the heroine continued to do nothing while being accompanied by her good friend and assistant. As expected, the girl knows Angie and her preferences very well, so she has never made a mistake in what the mistress needed, or in what she requested, but was wrong. Meanwhile, the bullying from the Marquis's mother continued. The woman still couldn't calm down after that time, which obviously worsened the situation, making everything much more flawed. The queen decided not to notice such antics. There is no time to act childishly, getting offended by anyone, when you only have to be offended by yourself for being transferred to this book. Ridicule was not the only problem. The girl was so isolated from everyone else that she did not notice how the storm began to approach, which then almost destroyed everything in its path. Now it's too late to think about where and how the water flowed. The beauty is on one knee, bowing her head with the Marquis and his mother in the throne room, which also contains Raniero. The emperor abruptly decided that he wanted to see his wife, so he summoned her to his place. I had to think for an hour to understand what was done wrong, but there were no conclusions. Most likely, the fault will be with one of the other maids. Since everything has led to this, the girl decides to bow lower. She lowers her head all the way to the floor, surprising everyone else in the room. I don't want to get into more problems or die due to carelessness. The blonde chuckles. The empress bows her head, not even understanding what is happening, which is also a little amusing. The hero is not in the mood for jokes or ridicule in a bad tone. The young man asks if everything is okay with his legs, to which he receives a nod. Everything is fine, but it was done out of fear and reverence. The girl really didn't want anything to happen. Since everything is going according to the plan that it should have been from the beginning, then the hero snaps his fingers, saying that we can begin to discuss the problem that brought them all together in the hall. Marquis Jacques introduces his name. They prepared the budget and its distribution for the third quarter, but one problem arose. There has been some confusion regarding the distribution of money in Her Majesty's palace, and this is something that is worth discussing. Without raising her head, the lady only turns her perplexed gaze towards the Marquis. She had never heard of a budget being distributed by someone other than the king of the state. Actilus once again turns away, while remaining dissatisfied. He did not ask anything, and gave the order to continue without delay, so that it would quickly become known what was happening. The Empress is very brave. She has a lot of impudence, so even the man doesn't understand what they were thinking in the palace when they considered her to be part of the family and allocated such a large budget that needed to be cut. The brunette rushes forward, saying that the woman indulged in splits instead of taking care of the palace. She was busy with everything except how to do things the right way. The blonde freezes with surprise on her face. She expected to hear anything, but definitely not something like that, because she considers herself innocent of simply following everything. The young man does not shut up. Since the lady did not intend to perform her duties, the cost of performing the duties of the officials was fixed. It is clear that the Marquise's mother did not ask to do business just for the sake of it. It turned out that huge amounts of money were spent on entertainment. The ministers turned a blind eye to this, but in this case, the young man cannot remain silent about what is happening. The disaster has begun. The Empress understands that almost everything that is said is a lie, but there is no opportunity to defend her position, because there is an emperor in the hall who will simply blow his head off for this. All this time, the maids mocked the girl, while only Cician took her side, who was always there and intended to help her mistress as much as possible. The blonde looks directly at the Marquis, while remaining in complete silence for several minutes, because he himself is not obliged to follow his rule and answer quickly. The man asks what the young man is going to do. The brunette continues to play to the public, saying that he has absolutely no goals. He cannot dictate what needs to be done, or make judgments that will not be brought into reality. The hero is devoted to the empire, so he just wanted to notify the ruler about non-compliance with the rules. Then the last word, as always, will remain with the prince, who, of course, will do everything right. Raniero laughs lightly. He should not make a decision on this matter, because it is quite small and unimportant. It is important for the Marquis to hear the opinion of a superior person, so he repeats this again for a better understanding of his intentions. Actilus really cares and cares about his country because he wants to remain in power, and therefore the current situation is a little dangerous. The Empress remains on the sidelines so as not to interfere where she shouldn't. For this person, the boring one will be guilty, and the cheerful one will be better than everyone else. He falsely thinks that the girl is terribly careless for asking for such an absurd amount, and this problem can be solved by simply reviewing the budget and changing the papers. If these two try to convince Raniero with such a boring option, it will lead to nothing. While reading the novella, the young lady noticed how issues were sometimes resolved, so she understood that she needed to start taking action. The girl cannot accept the fact that she is the only one who understands what is on a man's mind. She saw it from the reader's side, so perhaps she knows exactly how to approach it and from which side. The servants believe that Raniero is a cruel man who seeks pleasure, but sincerely cares for his country. In fact, everything is completely different because the hero has his own motives. You can literally read in your gaze that the man will get angry if you don't show him something interesting. He's already on edge, so something like this might not end well. The girl apologizes for behaving immorally and impudently. Of course, it was worth discussing the budget with the hero first. His Majesty has indeed had to endure a tedious event trying to allocate the budget, so some entertainment is needed to lighten the mood. The guy's eyes light up with joy and anticipation. This can be observed even from the outside, because he is clearly interested in the new proposal. The girl comes forward to say that they need to hunt people. The hunt will be for certain people, and the prey will be these three who have gathered in the hall. At such words, Marquis Jacques literally jumps up from his seat, and with fear in his eyes, asks what they are talking about. The hero is apparently so interested that he doesn't even pay attention to the expressions of protest that pour in from the young man. He asks the woman to continue to complete the thought. As you know, all the inhabitants of the Actilus Empire are descendants of Actila, the god of war. In such a country, anyone can become a soldier because he has the appropriate skills that will help him defeat everyone else around him. Humans would be ideal prey for such proposed entertainment. The girl understands that the best option is to go to the end and get her husband to agree to hold a competition that will depend on the lives of others. Hunting people is a method from the original work. Angie knew that the hero was interested in such things because she managed to reread the novel before putting it on the shelf and getting into a new unknown world. The only downside is that the lady will also have to become prey. She has already decided that she will go all in, so she is gathering strength to put forward her position. As the young man knows, the girl has an illness, especially since she recently moved to Actilus. It's not exactly fun when you have to put up with poor health, especially while hunting. It would not be good to release a sick rabbit into the hunting grounds when you can wait for the next chance. It turns out that the beauty is not going to participate in anything. She quickly states that there was no need to even think about such a thing, because it would be considered an honor to become an excellent catch on this summer hunt, which will take place very soon. By winter, the girl will become an excellent catch, so she's going to take care of her health, which will be in perfect order. In order not to miss out on possible fun, it is better to postpone the hunt for Angelica. Jacques finally begins to speak again. He immediately starts shouting because he believes that such activities are complete absurdity and should not be carried out in real life. Everything should be exactly like this. The young man believes that it is unreasonable to try to find fun where it does not and cannot exist. In order not to anger the ruler, the wife comes forward to ask whether the Marquis really cares so much about validity, which at the moment does not play any role. The same goes for the budget problem. The girl is going to discuss this as quickly as possible, but in such a way as to make the brunette look like a fool in the eyes of her own husband. In this case, everything will be fine. If the man had immediately come to the Empress and understood what exactly was wrong, then there would have been no need to bother His Majesty. He hasn't thought about what he can do at this time, which isn't the best option. Discontent is still blazing in her eyes, but in order to bring the young man to the end, the beauty is going to try with all her might to do everything as best as possible. In order to repair the damage that has been done and remove the boredom that has entered the hall, each of those present is obliged to become prey, because then His Majesty will be able to have a lot of fun, forgetting past grievances. The words are completed, and at the same second the blonde sitting on the throne smiles. The Empress made the right decision for the first time and chose an excellent option, so he begins to clap his palms. You can't miss opportunities when they are very close. Jacques still can't come to his senses. He hoped that he would be able to plunge Unro into the mud, but in the end, nothing came of it because she was able to get out. The young man asks not to force his old mother to do such cruel things, but instead to punish him as much as necessary. Hard things are not the most applicable in this moment and in this context. The Empress expressed herself clearly, so if they listen closely, they understand that becoming prey for hunting is a great honor for low people like all of them. As the girl said, the three of them are guilty of what they did. The heroine is extremely stupid, but only because she could not dissuade the Marquis and the maid from coming to this hall and could not persuade them to try to resolve everything peacefully. No one is ready to do something like this just to resolve differences with the Queen, who also cares only about herself, as she should. The screams continue as the man and woman are dragged away by several knights. Raniero didn't do it just like that. He is aware of the attitude of the Marquis Jacques towards him, which is why he agreed to the proposal so quickly. He didn't need a man who treats the young man badly in the castle and tries to plot intrigues. The guy's younger sister was not chosen for the role of the Empress. The man himself must have known that everything would end like this and made plans on how to incapacitate Angelica, because she could not be controlled in the same way as was done with Sylvia. The king decided to do nothing. He didn't worry too much about what he had to do because he believed that everything happened for a reason. Everything will be fine only when you move forward, clearing the path for yourself. If only the blonde from the Marquise's family had become Empress, then the plot might have changed. So far, no one knows exactly how this would have an impact, but there is no point in guessing. The young man puts his finger on his wife's chin, indicating that she should raise her head higher. This person only gives compliments when he wants to, so he says that the offer was not bad. A second later, the hero reaches closer and kisses the woman, trying to convey to her what he considers necessary. She needs to hold on and not give up. A beauty is never wrong, and this is what the blonde undoubtedly likes. He wants people to perform all their duties perfectly while stepping over their I can'ts. If Angie hadn't done this, she would have lost her head a long time ago. After the words, the hero abruptly takes the girl into his arms. He looks her straight in the eyes, asking how long she is going to run away from him, and then walks forward straight to his throne. Lowering his body onto the soft seat, Raniero listens to attempts at protest. This place is something where everyone else is not allowed to go, because this is the throne of the king. Looking at the picture of his wife sitting there, Actilus laughs, because it is too big for a little girl like this girl. The heroine lowers her head, biting the inside of her cheek forcefully. It's difficult for her, but such gestures help her to endure everything that bothers her so much. At the moment, the sensations have not changed, and they are strange, because she feels like a dog that is being played with. Large palms reach towards the woman's head, and then lightly stroke the crown. Fingers carefully move lower, stopping on the cheeks to push back the hair, while the young man asks if the woman likes this. She nods easily, holding back a sigh. The next day, great changes took place in the Empress's castle. From the very morning, there was a commotion that the Queen had to deal with alone after a month without work. The first thing the Marquis's mother had to do was leave her post as chief maid. He became prey just like she herself, so she was not allowed to stay in this place any longer, no matter how much she wanted to. For the imperial maids, the vacated place seemed like a complete burden. No one wanted to take on so much responsibility, but over time, everything was quickly resolved. Cician took over the post and was happy to help her friend. There were no others willing, so the girl is glad that the maid found the courage to do such an act. Smiling, but trying to hide her bad mood, the lady asks for forgiveness for not taking good care of her friend, almost all this time. The brunette bows her head. She doesn't want to hear an apology because there's no point in it. It was not Her Majesty's fault, because not only was Cician treated as a stranger, but also the lady herself, who did not deserve it. Nodding her head, the blonde turns away. The maid didn't seem to notice anything, so that's a good sign to use. In her head, the young lady asks for forgiveness for pretending to be a mistress despite coming from another world. Everything was going well, but that didn't mean nothing bad was happening either. With the change of head maid, rumors spread, which only contributed to the improvement. The Empress was no longer looked down upon, as she had been before, under Jacques' mother, who turned everyone against her. The blonde, looking at the flowers, asks God what exactly she should choose. The girl is not so picky, so there is no point in this. She would suit a bright yellow color that matches her hair and fair skin. The heroine nods actively. She promises to take note of even such small details in order to try in the future to make the choice easier for the Empress, who already has too many things to do. The girl considers herself an ordinary person. She changed after everything happened because she became a high-ranking person, but it didn't change anything. Beauty is still a reader who knows the original novel well. After what happened, the girl only began to worry more. Rumors must have already spread about what happened to Marquis Jacques, which was not the best option. The heroine tried to be a good girl, and nothing worked out. Rumors really do have a lot of power. Sometimes this is impossible to understand, but in this story the lady managed to understand quite quickly because she committed only one act, which now decides her fate. After what happened, in secular society, everyone around them began to consider Angelica a hot-tempered and arrogant queen who does not care about anyone but herself. Such a person is an excellent match for the emperor. At first, the girl was very worried about what was happening, but in the end, there was nothing wrong with it. Virgo simply fulfills Angie's duties, and even more so, the days pass quite hard. Troubles appeared on the second day, so the beauty quickly began to get tired of what she had to do. The duties of a ruler turned out to be much more complex than it seemed at the very beginning. Cician tried with all her might to support the maiden throughout the entire time, but so far nothing had happened. The beauty is sure that this is all due to the fact that the lady is not yet accustomed to life here and is only trying to adapt. Some time has passed since the heroine found herself in a completely new body. She has not yet had time to reveal the gifted potential because nothing is known, given that the novel did not indicate what Unro usually did in her free time or on weekdays. One of the Empress's most important responsibilities is planning the landscape and overseeing the garden. This is the simplest thing, but at the same time it is quite tiring, taking away your strength. Next on the list are salons and ballrooms, which also need to be planned and prepared. Even with the help of servants, this is a difficult task that required him to spend a lot of time sitting at his desk in his office. Added to all this is the fact that the summer solstice is the main holiday in Actilus, which means something big is needed. You can't get away with simple options that won't even impress the people who demand all this. The symbol of Actilus' past life is the sun. As it became clear, this holiday is held during the summer solstice, when the sun remains at its zenith the longest, and then the right time comes. Going out into the street with her assistants, the girl stops. She was so lost in thought about the upcoming celebration that she didn't even notice the blonde standing right near the entrance to the palace. The woman asks her subordinates who this maiden is, but receives only silence in response. It doesn't suit her that silence becomes something special, so her eyebrows creep down, showing dissatisfaction. Cician became the one who still dared to pronounce the guest's name and surname. This is Sylvia Jacques, the younger sister of the Marquis, who was sent to hunt as prey just recently by order of the king and queen. Nobody knows the reason why the girl came to the palace. As it turns out, she asks for an audience with Her Majesty the Empress, but this only makes things more unclear. No further information was provided. The girl looks at Sylvia, who bows her head almost immediately. It's strange that so much time has passed since the verdict, but she only appeared now. Cician explains the situation, because the heroine requested an audience the next day. Turning around, the beauty sighs in surprise. She did not hope that everything would be like this, however, as practice has shown, this girl can be persistent. I had to wait for 5 whole days without food or bath, which took too long. Thinking for just a few seconds, the girl says that she can let the guest inside. She doesn't know what exactly she needed, but she'll find out very soon. As soon as the blonde is admitted, she falls to her knees again, while greeting Her Majesty the Empress. She is the daughter of Roberta Jacques and Jacques' younger sister. Everyone already knows the name. Bowing her head, the queen listens to all the greetings, without interrupting so as not to appear too rude. It's too late to ask for anything because 5 whole days have passed. The heroine is really sorry that the girl had to wait almost a week without food or baths, but if she came to ask for leniency, there is no point in this. You can leave immediately, so your hand points towards the exit. The girl shakes her head. Everyone reaps what they sow before, which means her family itself is to blame for what it has been doing lately. Gathering her thoughts, the young lady seems to hesitate, not having the right to choose the right answer that will be best suited in such a situation. Finally, standing up, she says that she just recently learned that Roberta was removed from her position as head maid. Instead of her deceitful mother, you can take the chance and accept Sylvia as your personal maid, who will serve faithfully. I can't believe that the enemy's daughter wants to serve the queen. One could think of anything, assuming that the girl wants to plot against an acquaintance, but this turn of events seems the most absurd. In any case, what is in Sylvia's head is unknown to anyone. She may try to seize the opportunity to avenge the family and harm Angie while she is unguarded in the garden. Sadly lowering her eyes, the heroine remains calm, beginning her convictions. Everyone must understand that they are now in no position to entrust such an important job to a maiden from a family of traitors. The blonde nods her head, becoming more unhappy. She understands everything that is said to her, but continues to shake more than ever, like a leaf. The queen is usually compassionate, so it becomes increasingly difficult to control herself. The heroine has no more options. From childhood, she was raised as a consort for the emperor and as a servant for the empress, who would become her best friend. Most people who grow up locked up have no will of their own. Now that Sylvia's family has become prey, she has nowhere else to go. No one needs her, because only her brother and mother cared about her, who, in fact, did not want anything other than selling their own blood to the side of the castle. The maiden really belongs to a fallen aristocratic family, and she really has nowhere to go. If all other intentions are not so pure, then this becomes most clear and understandable in the current situation. Tears gather in the lady's eyes. They slowly roll down the cheeks and shine in the sun so that they are noticeable. It's very painful to think about family, because in fact, the fate is already predetermined, and it cannot be changed in any way. Despite how they treated their daughter and sister, it is still the family that matters. This is not the most important thing, no matter how you look at it, because the girl just wants to survive after losing everything because of her mother's stupidity. Unro carefully observes Sylvia's mental tossing. She understands everything that is said because she also wants to survive. Having found herself in a new world that is at least a little known, the Virgin still cannot predict anything, so she fights for her freedom. Sylvia's story greatly touched the Empress. She tried to appear indifferent, but now at night, lying in bed, she thinks about everything that happened. The only one who could remain indifferent to this is Raniero, who knows no weaknesses. The blonde has left a hole in Angie's defenses, but she doesn't know that she can trust some strange character. No one knows what is on her mind, as she is still ready to help her family if the opportunity arises. The heroine promised that she would soon announce her decision, but so far everything remains exactly the same as usual. It is impossible to change the thoughts in your head in a split second, no matter how hard you try. Sleep never came, so Angelica decides to go to the window to clear her head and get some fresh air. Inhaling the scent of flowers from the garden, she jumps up sharply because Raniero appears a centimeter away from her. Stepping back, the lady quietly asks what exactly brought the emperor to her chambers. He doesn't listen, just grins, because obviously, squealing at night is another chronic disease of the new wife who behaves like this. The hero does not need a mandatory reason why he visits his wife. He has every right to do this. Therefore, he does not consider it necessary to report. As he approaches, the man lowers his arms to either side of the woman's body, who looks on with frightened eyes. The girl smiles slightly, although she has long since begun to panic in her head. It will be problematic if the young man constantly visits her like this just to talk or do something else. The plan will begin to collapse, which is not good. Now is the perfect time to pay a visit. The Virgin nods her head, but hopes that her husband did not come to the estate out of a sense of duty that he feels. Looking down at his wife, the hero chuckles. He noticed that Angie began to stutter, as if she were shaving something that might inevitably happen very soon. She doesn't say anything, but every thought is written on her face again. After these words, the blonde leans closer, while kissing the beauty on the lips. She hums something in response, so as the man steps back, he asks if he should stop. It is clear that no one has been interested in the heroine's true opinion for a long time. Saying thank you, the lady moves back a little, leaning against the railing. It's worth rejoicing that everything is not going as bad as it seems, so the first question is asking how His Majesty's day went. The man was having fun. For the first time in a long time, the days did not go by in the same way, and as boringly as usual. The hunters have already begun training for the competition, and even 2 rules have been added to all this. The first is that the prey must also have a weapon, and if they can survive for 3 hours, they will win and be freed. He added these rules without even consulting, and now he is hinting at it, speaking plainly. A girl should not be upset over such trifles, so she smiles and declares that if the guy is happy, then nothing else matters. The words have their own truth. The Empress was also busy all this time. During the day, she managed to draw up a report and a plan for landscaping the garden near the palace. There was also something else that I don't have the courage to say anything about. The girl is silent for about a few seconds. The hero interrupts attempts to explain himself, saying that it is worth bringing that same person. He wouldn't do it just out of kindness because it's actually supposed to be funny. The wife stands and looks with surprised eyes. She does not want to show the bad side of herself, but it is clear that the man does not express real thoughts, literally speaking, in riddles. We're talking about Sylvia. If she takes part as a hunter, it will help correct her past mistakes. In this way, the blonde will also prove her loyalty to the Empress, as she promised. The girl will be allowed to become a hunter like everyone else. She must kill her mother and brother with her own hands, without regretting anything, just to survive in a dangerous environment. The idea is great. It has long been clear to the prince that his wife is thinking about whether her new acquaintance, who may have her own motives that she is pursuing, will betray her. The worries of ordinary people are all too obvious. Pouring wine into a glass, the young man asks to bring Jacques to the palace. The condition will be quite simple, because if the maiden manages to show herself well in the role of a hunter, she will be appointed to the position of maid in the royal castle. Angie nods her head. This plan seems to be the best compared to all other options. Even after such a certainty, there will not be 100%, but this already means at least something. The man thought that what he said would be a good idea, but he didn't like the expression on his lover's face at all. If such are the feelings, then Sylvia's order will be given by the Emperor himself in order to lighten Her Majesty's heavy burden. It is difficult for Virgo to talk about such things, because she is too weak. She smiles, but in her heart she mocks the young man, because by his standards, in this world there exists him and all the other weaklings who are unable to do anything in this life. Raniero Actilus was born in a human body, but is actually a character who considers people to be useless midges who are worth nothing in their lives. He could do nothing but become a cruel man who would be respected. His childhood cannot be called unhappy, however. In any case, it does not matter, because the boy was born of pure evil, which is going to take over everyone around him. Now the man stands in front of the beauty, while she once again seeks the answer to the question of why she was the one who was sent to live next to him. In the end, she will still be killed, no matter how hard she tries. The young man examines the scarlet spots that stretch on his clothes. Virgo is very scared, and this becomes clear almost immediately. You need to immerse yourself in pleasure and instantly forget about all fears. The girl looks back. She cannot get out of her head what she is thinking about, because the young man really is absolute evil, who is also one of the strongest and most beautiful in this world with his appearance. Everything will be fine, because this time the lady will try not to make any stupid mistakes that could harm her health and life. The hero pulls his wife along with him and then allows her to lower herself onto the bed. Everything happened exactly as it should. The girl turns away, mindlessly looking at the wall, but a finger is touched on her shoulder. According to the hero, she is not at all hardy, especially judging by the size of her body. Becoming a great hunter with a body like this will be the main challenge. The young man himself does not understand what he is going to do, but he does not think about what he is telling his wife, who is trying not to react. The lady had completely forgotten that she should become the emperor's prey in winter. In fact, the heroine did not even intend to become anyone's prey, because an escape plan had already appeared in her head. At first, everything will not be in the best shape, however. As soon as the man goes on an expedition, everything will fall into place. There, he will meet Seraphim, and will never again look for Angelica, from whom he will lose all interest. The hero never told the woman about the second rule, which was adopted quite recently. The girl must also become a hunter, otherwise nothing will work as it should. She's not exactly qualified to take on this task, but she has no choice. The blonde immediately tries to calm the girl down so that she doesn't start to worry even more. No problems will definitely arise, but the only rule that was adopted is better not to break it, so as not to get into trouble. Raniero will also become a hunter, which confuses the beauty much more than the proposal itself. Sylvia would not have survived the meeting with this evil, and after death she would have taken her friend along with her along the way, so that it would not be so boring. Actilus realizes that the rules are meaningless. He added them all, knowing there was no point, so he did it a different way. Knowing exactly what was needed and how it could be played out, he did everything to lure his wife into his trap. Trying to pull herself together so as not to reveal her confusion and fear only more, the beauty, hiding the trembling in her voice, asks when exactly the hunt will be held, which has obviously already been scheduled. The hunt will open on the summer solstice. Most likely the girl will be very busy, because in the end she is responsible for the festival, which is scheduled for that day. She collected plans that could be applied then. There's only a month left until everything happens. Initially, the beauty was going to establish friendly relations with the nobles on the eve of the celebration, but for some reason, all social events were cancelled. Instead, preparation began on how to defend yourself and try to survive. Even the mother of the Marquis Jacques takes part in it, and she is obliged to do so in order to be saved. Nobody wants Roberta to become successful. Watching the man and woman fight, the lady just groans once again. She was allowed to observe the training for a while, so she arrived at the place. Those two are clearly talented, and it shows in the deft way they move around the field. As you know, all residents of the Actilus Empire, including women and children, study martial arts so that later they can be called up to war at any time. This will be a great benefit to the state and honor to those who go there. The maid noticed that the queen initially neglected her training, but that all changed after Her Majesty visited the girl last night. He did everything possible to change her decision for the better. Duchess Nemra notifies the lady that the search has already begun for a new good teacher who can do everything at the best level. The girl is happy, but no matter how good the teacher is, it's impossible to do something like this in a month. Thinking about what exactly can be done to win at least a small privilege, the lady suddenly says that she needs to learn how to use a bow. If you have to fight in close combat, the character will die quickly, so you need to keep your distance and keep everything under control. Grabbing the Duchess's hands, the girl literally begs to be allowed to learn how to use a bow. She will not be able to show herself as one of the best, but in the end, she will remain alive, which is the most important thing. On the very first day of training, the beauty was incredibly tired. The bow turned out to be much heavier than it initially seemed, so the maiden did not evaluate her abilities and physical characteristics in the correct order. Nemra apologizes for her impudence in advance, but understands that there is some truth in her words. In all this time, while she taught the others, not once could she hear that the bow was too heavy, even from a 10-year-old child who could handle it with ease. The girl pulls herself together and gets up from the ground. She needs to try over and over again in order for at least something useful to come out. It's a pity, but she is different from the inhabitants of Actilus, who have great strength, strong bodies, and endurance, which helps to go to the end. On the new day, you need to try to hit at least near the target. Later, we will see how the training will go, but for now the goal remains one, and it seems almost unattainable. Virgo is not going to make big plans or hopes, but still shoots the arrow forward. It would be nice for the training to bear fruit, thereby helping the heroine win her life back on this summer hunt. There is silence in the throne room. The blonde looks at Sylvia with a menacing look, but then begins to speak. He has already heard that the girl wants to become the Empress's maid, but she probably doesn't realize what position she will put herself in by accident. The heroine understands everything and hopes that she can do something to achieve success. The king announces one condition. Most likely, after it will be possible to become the personal maid of the Empress, but the condition is to become a hunter. The reaction is predictable, because the eyes widen in surprise, and the girl herself even begins to stutter slightly. The blonde knew this would happen, so he chuckles again, thinking about the weakness of the people who surround him. Calling security, the young man orders the girl to be taken away, who at the same time tries very hard to slow down, trying to say something. Addressing the servant, the king asks about the Empress. All events have been cancelled, leaving plenty of time to prepare. As the butler learned, the young lady herself chose her type of activity. She tries to learn archery, thereby developing her stamina and strength while she wields a weapon. It also became known that the Empress had lost consciousness. What this means is unclear, but so far the Emperor does not like this beginning at all. He expects the woman to become stronger, at least over time. The eyes open slowly. It feels like someone filled it with lead because the eyelids are too heavy. The first thing you notice is the bed, so the heroine quickly realizes that she most likely fainted during one of her training sessions. Trying to sit up, the lady makes sounds that escape on their own in pain. It was necessary to listen to Duchess Nirma and stop in time, because now the whole body literally aches from how tense it was just recently. Angelica was a princess, so the heroine thought that she learned to ride horses and became resilient during this time. No luck, because the girl was weak since childhood, which affected her condition at the moment. The girl said all this out loud, so the blonde sitting next to him asks why his wife talks about this as if she doesn't remember anything from her early childhood. He appeared out of nowhere, and so suddenly that he had to be scared. Realizing that the time has come to start making excuses, the heroine declares that she did not expect to change about yesterday. The king thought that something terrible had happened, but it was just a minor trouble that made no sense. The man himself could never have thought that the girl would lose consciousness from the simplest endurance training. This can be regarded as something strange, but we can only be grateful for the concern. The Empress is still pale, even after waking up. The guy lets go of her chin, hoping that he can read all the emotions he needs. The girl simply wants to rest, so she waits for the young man to move away. No matter how much the hero thinks, it becomes more and more clear that the beauty is too stupid. She is tired, but in this case it is best to take a break and rest quietly, if there is time and opportunity for this. Such a perfect predator as a man cannot fully understand a woman who does not even hope that anyone will help her. She fell on the training ground, simply due to fatigue, which overtook her at the most inopportune moment. This country cannot understand that people may not have the same power as them. Everyone here was born with good physical characteristics and even started training as a child. Virgo understands that if she is tired, the best thing to do is just take a rest and not try to go about her business. She is trying her best not to die, but so far she is blamed for every wrong step she takes. Noticing the tears that have to be brushed away almost instantly, the young man nods his head. He extends his hand to straighten the girl's hair, while asking the maid to bring cold water and silk towels that will be needed for a compress. It seems that the Empress is very ill. The hero promises to take care of the health of his beloved, but from his eyes, which are filled with madness, it is clear that this may not end well. After bringing the things, the hero lowers the towel into the water, and then, without squeezing, places it on the queen's face. Water immediately begins to flow down it, so, noticing this, the blonde asks if the towel is wet. In order not to fall under the hot hand, the lady assures that everything is fine. His Majesty's methods don't work. Instead of continuing to do everything wrong and harm with his methods, Raniero calls a servant who should take good care of Her Majesty, the Empress. As it turned out, the Virgin's physique affected not only the slowness of her training, but also her illness. Because of her physique, her temperature rises just by moving. Actilus had never seen anything like this before. The maid tries to explain more about what exactly needs to be done and how. All this is due to the fact that the beauty is too weak. Her body resists when she does what she cannot, causing everyone around her to suffer. Grunting, the hero once again reminds the woman that she is too pitiful a creature. You want to run away from such a flawed, painful appearance, because this begins to irritate the prince himself incredibly. The position in which Raniero sits is different from all the others he usually uses for comfort. She screams with all her details that the maid may be free, but for some reason she does not react to this. The girl understands that she needs to take everything into her own hands, so she asks the maid to bring something to eat because she is hungry. 10 minutes later, they send out a bowl of soup to be eaten. The king feeds the queen with a spoon and notices that even her mouth is too small. After finishing the meal, the hero notices the fact that he will have to stay in the palace tomorrow. The words can be falsely taken as concern that is addressed to a woman, but this is absolutely not the case. The young man wants to look at those training sessions that are going one worse than the other. He himself is not fully aware of what he is saying, and at the same time, he does not want to listen to any protests that will make him fall into boredom. Initially, Raniero hoped it would be funny to watch Roberta run away. He hoped that it would end like every hunt, but if things continued like this, then the hunter would become the victim of those who defended themselves. The bowl of soup is finished, and she is pushed away. The guy feigns a sigh, saying that, as he thought, the wife will not be able to entertain the guests and the husband himself on a winter hunt. This will become something fatal for a fragile body that is not prepared. The hero wants to know what he will get in return for the long wait, which has already tired him out. This time, the lady managed to become a hunter, but after half a year, she will have to change sides and become a victim, where there will be no choice left. There is no choice, so Angie just needs a little time so that she can lighten the load a little for herself in the future. The girl is going to run away before Raniero meets Serafima, but until this moment, it is necessary to somehow create the illusion that she is going to become prey for everyone else. The illusion must be maintained. Jumping up to sit on the bed once again, the lady asks you to believe in her strength, because they are already looking for a mentor together, so that the training will be of at least some use, because otherwise nothing will work out, no matter how hard you try. If the girl fails to pull off her scam, she will not be able to continue. For now, she is trying her best to convince the guy that everything will be fine and a mentor will be found very soon. Everything goes according to plan, and even the king himself is satisfied with this. There are only a few buts left, and then everything will end as it should. So far, Unro has not been able to find a teacher because the process is ongoing. If things are delayed, then you will not be able to learn the necessary skills on time. In this case, Raniero has no choice but to become the queen's mentor. She asks again, but quickly falls silent because she doesn't want consequences. The blonde promises that she will never forget how they spent their time on her. She promises to try her best, which is why very soon the young man will notice the first results that can be put on the same line. The next morning, the heroine woke up without the pain that had tormented her the entire past day. The drugs worked, but perhaps it was also because the man had been caring for his wife all last night, trying to make the pain less painful. Actilus was around until about midnight. The maid said that he returned to his place only at dawn to get some rest. There are no feelings about this, so the girl gets up to ask when she needs to be at training. Cecian lowers her head to the floor, saying in a guilty voice that she herself does not know exactly how and where to go to get to training. She immediately receives accusations because everything should have been known in advance. Grabbing her bow, the lady quickly begins to dress and tie her hair. She must get to the field faster than Raniero, so, having arrived at the deserted site, she begins to look around. Most likely the man did not have time to come, so the girl calmly exhales, glad that everything ended well. A menacing voice is heard behind you, wishing you good morning. It's already more than 10 o'clock, so the young man notices the fact that the woman was in no hurry at all, allowing herself to sleep. The king has been waiting for 2 hours already, but hopes that this will not happen again next time. Changing the topic of conversation, the blonde asks what is in his wife's hands. He knows the name of the weapon, but does not understand why she brought it with her. Angie bows her head, exhaling heavily. Her body is still too weak, let alone her arms, which can only lift a bow, which just recently also seemed like an unbearable burden. Raniero seems oblivious, asking if the maiden has ever thought of using a weapon that fits a certain person perfectly. Everyone has their own taste and color. Angelica asked me to bring this bow myself. It is not as heavy as the previous one, so it is easier to handle. Any bow becomes useless if the archer cannot draw the string, which gets in the way. In fact, the lady is really grateful. She wanted to find a teacher, but since Actilus himself volunteered to study with her, this is a great honor that was given to a simple person. The man reaches his hand towards the young lady's face. Her cheeks had long since turned red, but only then did he realize that she was still feverish. The medicine did not help a little, so in this case it becomes almost an impossible task to study. Ignoring his wife's condition, the hero turns around, offering to finally start with the training that had already been postponed. He is not going to put off what can be done in advance. The hero didn't even reprimand Angie for being late, so they just got down to business. An hour later, there was almost nothing left. The beauty was influenced, so she was thrown over her shoulder. Many people were defeated in this way. Raniero got tired of target practice in less than 30 minutes. He turned out to be a truly impatient man who could not understand what he wanted from his student. After a while, the young man pulled out a wooden sword from somewhere, which had recently been removed when Her Majesty decided to practice with a bow. There was absolutely no time to prepare or master new material. The hero began to attack almost instantly because the best practice is real battle conditions that help to concentrate. The girl did not expect this, so she was very scared. These aren't real swords, which scared her almost as much, so much so that she couldn't do anything about it, even if she tried her best to hold on. Fencing abilities turned out to be insignificant. There is no surprise in this, because the girl had never done anything like this before, but it was still a little offensive to hear in person that she was insignificant. Every attack was unsuccessful. Hours passed, but nothing changed, because somehow the blonde predicted what exactly the woman, who had long since run out of steam, would do. The movements that were used could easily have cut a throat or done something else terrible. This would definitely affect the maiden's life in the upcoming hunt. The girl is constantly distracted. She looks at the sky to at least catch her breath a little, but here it can no longer be said that her eyes are failing her due to some other chronic disease. In the end, Raniero began to explain the basics of fencing step by step after realizing that there was no other way to use it. Just one move and the girl would be gone. In a real battle, no one will spare either himself or his opponent. The first rule was to remember that you need to move your waist if you want to adjust the distance with your opponent. Proper use of the shoulders, elbows, and wrists is the main control of the sword's trajectory, which moves only forward. Ultimately, there was a whole list of things that needed to be done to win. The king constantly complains that he is tired of playing fights with such a fragile person, but in the end, he is not going to stop training. A determination appeared in my head to bring my work to the end. I can't believe that someone who can't stand the tedium of classes agreed to it himself. Perhaps there was an ulterior motive somewhere, but so far the wife has not been able to understand what exactly is hidden behind the mask of indifference. At the end of the day, there was absolutely no strength left, from the word at all. Controlling herself so as not to faint again, the girl passes and thanks the teacher for teaching her. Next, she will try her best, even if it takes a long time. No matter how big the Actilus Empire is, rumors spread like wildfire. Although without an official announcement, rumors about the hunting festival spread throughout the aristocratic society. As it became known to everyone around, the festival will take place during the summer solstice, in the hunting grounds. Sylvia Jacques, the Emperor and Empress, are hunters who will hunt known victims. Everything goes well. The queen hopes that she won't be able to accidentally mess up somewhere in the wrong direction, so she's going to test her strength to the fullest. The only downside is that during one of the training sessions, the beauty was injured, and the emperor took care of her health for a long time. This man made one of the most fatal mistakes when he started all this. He also waited 2 hours for training, never scolding. On the first day this surprised me, but over time this happened over and over again, allowing me to get used to it a little. At the end of the training, Actilus presented a new bow that suits its owner. The only problem is that the rumors actually spread much faster than it seemed possible. Everyone around, from the capital's nobility to the neighboring country, learned about what had happened, and the maids from the palace became the preliminary source. It is impossible to do anything, because this is precisely the role of the Empress's maids, who must each be the best. It is better to hide the truth and embellish the Emperor and Empress a little. This gradually improves the girl's position in social circles. One way or another, in the end, nothing would matter, because the beauty was planning to run away very soon. You don't want to become someone else's talking point because you should try to do it at the first opportunity. For now, the duties are to play the role of the Emperor's amiable wife. No one knows when another Marquis Jacques will decide to show up, who will want to frame Angie so that she will fly out of the castle posthumously. The maid, as usual, follows directly behind the mistress. She enters her room, noticing the mountain of gifts that covers the wall from end to end. The eyes widen sharply in surprise, because no one can answer the question of what it is. Judging by the huge number, it is safe to say that this was done for the entire empire, which deserved good treatment. One of the maids clears things up a bit, saying that these are just part of His Majesty's gifts that he sent. It takes time for rumors to reach even villages. The beauty smiles. It's not just that the girl has been ingratiating herself with her mistress lately, because obviously she needs something. The girl would have liked this attitude if this man had not served Roberta in the past. Distracted from the maid, who still does not calm down, the maiden examines the mountain, on which at the very top there is a letter in which the husband said that he could no longer wait for the real hunt to begin. The girl does not know what she can achieve in just a month. Turning back to her friend, the lady asks when the hunting grounds will be ready. No one has yet said the exact date after which the real competition can begin, which awaits its participants. Angie is very worried. No matter how hard she tries, defeating the Jacques family will not be so easy. They have lived here since birth, so they have been trained in various sciences and defense, which will help them move forward up the stairs to save their lives. The girl tries to eat a lot of salads with chicken breast to build muscle mass, but she understands in advance that it will all be in vain. If it is no longer possible to win by force, then it is worth trying to fight your way to victory with information that you need to have time to get somewhere. The training only became more brutal. His Majesty did not spare the Empress at all, who was quickly running out of steam. She once again falls to the ground while trying to catch her breath and say that she has absolutely no strength left to continue walking. The blonde, as always, treats everyone with contempt and skepticism. When he has to look at a lady, he also has to think about doubts about the human race, because the girl is too weak. This was the first time I had to deal with such a person. I would like to respond to all the insults that are simply thrown at my face, however, in order to maintain distance. The lady closes her eyes, remaining silent. It is no longer even possible to count exactly how many times she lost, because the number exceeds 1,000. It is commonly said that genius does not extend to teaching others. Raniero only reprimands every time he moves incorrectly, and then eventually forgets about everything, as if nothing happened, to help his wife move on. To take a short break, the young man suggests going to explore the hunting grounds. For a complete overview of the forest, the hero takes the woman to an open area in the tower, where she has a wonderful view that takes her breath away. The eyes light up with sparks of interest. It has long been clear that in the Actylus Empire, everything is done on a huge scale. The grounds are gorgeous, and it's impossible to argue with this, because the trees extend several hundred kilometers away from the castle. Lowering her head, the girl also studies the area nearby, as knowledge can be useful in battle. She notices in time that from this turret you can literally see the other end of the world, so it's perfect for a bow. Distracting his wife from his thoughts, the blonde says that he really tried for her sake, so it's as if he's waiting for some kind of praise. This is all clear, so the girl nods actively. She tries to do this as quickly as possible so as not to raise unnecessary doubts. They liked the land, and you don't even have to ask why, because they are wonderful. At first, the king had fun teaching the woman, because this way he could have fun after his boring affairs, but the heroine turned out to be so clumsy that now there was unnecessary concern. Actylus trained the lady in good faith, so he still hopes that everything will end as it should. Angie became the huntress in the summer and also promised to become the hunted in the winter, which was already quite intriguing from the start. The new rules were not adopted in vain. After that day of conversation, time seemed to speed up, so it began to move twice as fast. Every morning the queen trained with Raniero, who continued to increase the requirements of the plan, and then from morning to night she was preparing for the summer solstice. The hand often went numb due to the amount of writing. Sylvia tried not to encounter Her Majesty anymore, and perhaps this could have saddened Angelica because she wanted to know how things were going with her, but there was absolutely no time for that. Your business always comes first. After everything had been prepared for weeks, the young lady finally decided to take an easy rest. At the very moment when she decided this, Raniero showed up, who considered it his duty to ruin the whole day. The maids, noticing the man, dispersed almost instantly, citing their important matters. They behave this way again because they are afraid of ruining something. Now the lady is left alone with the monster, as if she were in a cage. It is obvious from the girl that she is worried. The young man cannot ignore this, so he asks about the condition. In fact, it all depends on the fear that does not go away. Despite the fact that the couple began to see each other every day, nothing radically changed. The blonde comes closer. He examines his wife's face and then calls her a defenseless rabbit. At the moment, she really looks like a baby who is scared. Obviously, Unro has already made some mistake. The woman literally laughs at the man with her searching eyes. They look straight into the soul to grasp the edges of consciousness and understand the essence. The Empress has become too impudent, so the blonde laughs. The girl quickly tries to justify herself. She doesn't want to be killed and didn't want to do anything wrong by using the wrong look. The young man compared her to a small, fluffy animal, which in no way resembles his wife. The heroine is not really like that, so she tries to explain herself. A good opportunity never comes as the blonde leans closer, kissing the beauty. He reaches his hand to the zipper on the back to unfasten the dress. The kiss is interrupted as suddenly as it began. It's in the girl's blood to be inept, because the king too quickly managed to find out what the Empress liked and what didn't quite suit her. It would be best to stop at this point. The man knows what the beauty was waiting for, so he says that he is sorry. She still doesn't understand what's happening, but he just calmly undresses the lady, and then, after a new dress, he takes her to the mirror so that she can admire her beauty. The hero was recently told that the dress is worn like this, without any extra clothing on the body, which is why he undressed the girl. All this was definitely worth it, because the beautiful lilac dress shimmers with jewels in the sun, attracting attention. Examining her reflection with care, the girl quietly thanks for such a gift. It matches her hair color, which even the king himself noticed. He kisses the lady's hair, trying to be as careful as possible. One can only hope that the robe will be used on the day dedicated to the summer solstice. Dropping closer and grabbing Angie's chin, the hero warns in a whisper that if the lady dies during the hunt, the outfit will become ownerless. If she really values him, she should try hard. June has finally arrived. Along with the warm month came the day of the summer solstice. On this day, the long-awaited hunt, which had been expected for a month, should take place. For now, preparations are in full swing, but the real competition will only take place in the afternoon. From the moment she moved into this novel, the girl's only goal was survival. She doesn't want to die an absurd death, only through her own fault, so she hopes that this time everything will go as well as possible. In order not to be forgotten, Angie begs herself to take this last chance and not lose heart. There are only 6 months left, and if you can overcome this obstacle, the path is clear. The woman will escape first, like a rat from a sinking ship. Virgo goes out to meet her husband. In her heart, she hopes that at least once she was not late, however, as the situation shows, this is absolutely not the case. The man waited for about 2 hours, which is about the usual amount of time one has to wait. The beauty ends up on her husband's lap. Her cheeks turn red, but she continues to try to control herself. If anyone sees this picture, they will think that there is complete happiness in the relationship, which does not affect everyone else. A crowd of people has gathered under the palace balcony, but no one is paying attention to what is happening. The young man asks about the girl's well-being, checking for a future competition. He wants to study the strategy in detail, so he asks what Unro plans to do when he enters the hunting grounds. Virgo thinks, but this is just a pretense. In fact, she has long known what exactly needs to be done to achieve her goal as quickly as possible. At the very beginning, you should run to the center to take the highest position in the group. The heroine wants to do everything to avoid close combat, for which she is physically unprepared. She smiles, but in response she receives laughter, which easily spreads around. The eyes dim because it is not clear what was said that was so special. There is no choice, so Angie tries to defend her honor and dignity. She explains the fact that she tried to do everything as best as possible and was even able to stand for 30 seconds without giving up right away. In response, you get another ridicule. Actilus understands that there is no need to humiliate the woman, but still reminds him of the fact that everything worked out only because he moved terribly slowly. I wanted to give at least some tiny chance of winning, which was not even used. Conversations stop. A servant comes forward, who usually announces all holidays as intended by order of His Majesty. The brunette announces the beginning of the festival in honor of the summer solstice. The sun blinds her eyes, so the Empress is unable to notice how the people are watching her every move. People also notice how a couple holds hands, so they immediately decide that this is a sign of an idol. After all the greetings, there is a dinner where many people have gathered. The girl doesn't eat anything at all, and they pay attention to this. There is no time to worry, because after all, the beauty is so nervous about the upcoming hunt, because she may simply not live until the morning if she ends up in the hunting grounds. The young man holds out a glass of wine, which pleasantly catches the glare of the sun on the glass. He smiles, saying that this is a kind of gift that the Empress deserves for her courage and tenacity. So far, nothing has been said about what exactly is added to the glass. The girl accepts the drink, but treats it with a little suspicion. Raniero's is like a different drink. The color is different, as is the smell, which seems more intoxicating than usual. The eyes narrow to understand everything, but this does not help. You definitely need to drink it all down. The order must be followed, so without further hesitation, the girl drinks the contents of the glass in one gulp. The blonde just laughs. Once again, the heroine would even drink some nasty stuff if it were from her husband and was ordered to be carried out. A strange feeling instantly takes over the body. I have to sit back down in my chair to avoid falling on the floor, but even that doesn't work out perfectly the first time. Virgo can no longer understand what is happening around her because her arms and legs seem to be on fire. Now there are more questions about what exactly she had to accept. The people around do not pay attention to the changes in the Empress, so they continue to dine and talk. The heroine leans against the man's shoulder to find support. He asks her to calm down and be patient, because very soon it will become much easier. A second later, the heroine bursts into ringing laughter, which echoes throughout the hall and attracts the attention of the aristocrats, who did not think that the queen knew how to behave in such a way. Noticing the glances that seem to be focused on her, the beauty asks each of them why everyone was distracted from the dishes that were skillfully prepared especially for dear guests. There is madness in the eyes. The king orders everyone to do what they are asked to do. Unro quickly slices the meat and then bites into the piece with his teeth. The taste of the steak turned out to be unusual, and for some reason, all the senses became sharply sharpened, as if now everything was seen and heard much better. Licking her lips, Angelica assures everyone else that it's delicious. She is truly glad that she was able to taste such a wonderful dish as this meat, which seems excellent. The satisfaction she receives is now visible in her eyes. From the moment Raniero gave the wine, the girl has strange feelings that cannot be changed. At first, the body became hot and light, and then became heavier again, as if an additional load had been placed on it. Such differences have a slight effect on the overall condition. Now, instead of being nervous, you can start hunting. Any fear of doing something wrong simply disappeared, because now it seems to the Virgin that she can do anything as long as everything is fine. The victims will regret going out into the hunting forest. While the lady was thinking about the strategy of how best to start the battle, a maid who entered the room pointed out a strange curiosity in the form of a purple artifact. This is a gift from His Majesty, which he asked to convey urgently. Soleo is a purified form of a deadly poison produced by poisonous frogs. The prince said that his wife already knows how to use the thing to be useful in battle, so the maid just bows for now. Finally, the battle itself begins. We had to wait about hours beforehand because other preparations had been made since the morning. The speaker announces the arrival of the Empress. After this, a lot of praise immediately pours in, and a buzz echoes through the stands. Stepping forward, the lady scans the crowd. They all gathered to watch a wonderful performance and have fun, but, unfortunately, nothing will happen. If a person is outside the fence, he will not be able to see anything. The prey lurked in the hunting grounds. In the morning, the Jacques family was already released into the forest, so finding them will be quite problematic. In the end, there is nothing terrible, because there are still waves of adrenaline in the blood that allow you to move forward. Eyes dart from side to side, and the maiden accidentally notices Sylvia standing next to her. She is shaking with fear, but the best option is to pull herself together. You need to prove yourself worthy to become the Empress's maid, otherwise the entrance will be closed. There is no place for the faint of heart in such a brutal game. A few weeks ago, Sylvia knelt before the queen and pressed the pity that actually appeared in the maiden's head. Now the pity at that moment seems false, because the girl is not worth it. If the blonde shows how she can cope with difficulties and performs well, then she will deserve a reward. In any other case, no one will even think about how her future will turn out after the hunting tournament. His Majesty the Emperor comes out next and is greeted with an even more violent reaction. The man immediately goes to Unro to remind her that she will not die for anything. He promises that he will do everything possible to ensure that the classes are useful. A moment later, the hunting grounds are already open. The order of entry into these territories is determined by status. The first to go is Sylvia, who takes herself by the hand and proudly raises her head, going into the forest, hoping that today she will be lucky to do everything in the best possible way for her. The eyes of the main character light up with fire more than ever as soon as she sees the open gate. She can't wait to get inside as soon as possible to start the game. Today, everything will definitely go as it should. Feelings of anticipation and delight take over, immersing the body directly into itself. At the moment, the couple is similar because the young man experiences much the same feelings, even without the addition of drugs that reveal them. First of all, as she promised herself, the lady goes to the tower. Her body is so light that you want to jump, but you need to focus on more important issues. The vantage point is good, so the forest is clearly visible. In order for victory to be achieved faster and the enemy to die immediately, The girl took care of all the measures that could help with this. She applied poison to the arrowheads, which Raniero gave her in the morning. Now it's a matter of technique. Unro needs to focus on hearing. It is with your ears that you can hear how one of the opponents is trying to get closer. The bushes begin to rustle, but then Sylvia appears from there. The blonde looks at the woman from above with hope in her eyes. The girl is about to say something, but she doesn't notice how Roberta refuses behind her. She grabs her daughter by the hair to pull her back, looking angry. Everyone in this forest is determined to survive through selection and protection. The woman begins to shout something about the sacrifice that the Marquis Jacques will make. She promises to bring the heart to the emperor so that he will reward the maid, also allowing her to live on. The girl will be sacrificed to the god Actilla on the summer solstice. This holiday even sounds somehow poetic in order to do something like this. Thanks to this, the brunette will probably be able to survive and then escape from the empire. Obviously, this is the secret trick that the Jacques family has prepared. Nothing will work if you don't take action, so the beauty takes aim once again, pulling the bowstring. She tries to make sure the tip hits Roberta, who is so busy talking that she doesn't notice the queen on the tower. The girl nevertheless releases the arrow, and it whistles through the air, rushing into the distance. Instead of hitting the right place on the body, the weapon flies past, as at the last moment, the hand twitched a little. The brunette looks up to notice Unro. She is going to go up because she needs to deal with the Empress, but nothing works out. Sylvia throws herself at her mother, allowing them both to fall to the ground and not move forward. Mom wants to kill the girl in order to survive, but she never thought about Sylvia herself. The heroine also wants to live more than anything else, and for this, she will not be ashamed to sacrifice her deceitful family. There is a medium-sized stone in the hands, which is waved. The blonde begins to strike, putting into them all her rage, which has accumulated over a long time. Jacques is confident that she will be able to win and find a new home for herself, where she will be comfortable without constant bullying from her family. Raniero will wish he had seen the spectacle that just happened. The lady comes down the steps, hearing that Sylvie is presenting the body as a trophy. Now this is the prey of Her Majesty, who will appropriate everything for herself, simply by making her acquaintance her maid. Smiling, the girl praises her subordinate. The way she carried herself was amazing, considering the show was truly impressive. The eyes sparkle with the fire of trust, which begins to gradually develop. The brunette is still alive, but the Empress fixes it. She positions the blade, completing everything that needs to be done. One could rejoice, but unfortunately, the battle is not over, because the Marquis Jacques himself remains. He comes out of the forest with an axe, calling out to Roberta. Henry realizes that he is the only one of the victims alive. He no longer pays attention to anything, hiding his emotions far away, and takes out a weapon. Strange laughter echoes around, but the girl reacts instantly, drawing her bow. As the man rushes forward, the lady fires one of the arrows, which hits him squarely in the shoulder. The poison should begin to spread, so there's not much time left to wait. The body suddenly feels hot. The beauty clutches her heart, trying to breathe, but for some reason nothing works. The pain is so severe that it feels like the muscles are about to tear. Engie tries to rush into battle because the young man does not consider it necessary to surrender, but after the first blow, he flies away, falling to the ground. She doesn't understand what's happening, because for some reason her body suddenly turned into a non-working state, going into this state. The girl shrinks on the ground, but no longer makes any attempts to get up. She quietly calls for help. All you can see in front of you is a man who raises his weapon, shouting that his mother's enemy will be destroyed quite quickly. The heroine does not want to die, so she only becomes more scared. At the most opportune moment, Raniero appears behind him and pierces the Marquis's body from the back with a sword, hearing gurgling sounds that do not stop. The body falls to the ground, and Actylus now looks at the woman, who blinks her eyes in surprise. He promised that he would not let her die after all, and at the last moment he kept his promise, making sure that the lady was safe. Virgo is still feeling just as bad. The body just hurts mercilessly, making you cry. The drug that the heroine took allowed her to go beyond human capabilities, and also increased excitement and eliminated fear, helping her to fight perfectly in the tournament. It is impossible to even imagine what would have happened if it had not appeared at the right moment. The only downside is that the drug has side effects. The medicine overloads the body, and may suddenly become ineffective. It cannot be used for military purposes, precisely for this reason. You need to add another dose to make it easier. Opening the jar, the blonde pours the contents into his mouth and then leans forward to give the woman a kiss. With their mouths colliding, he also bestows a precious antidote. Not even a few minutes had passed before the lady felt much better. She is surprised that everything turned out this way, because she had no idea that it would be so bad in the end before the acceptance. The body no longer aches, and the head has calmed down just like the fever that had managed to drop. Thanks to Unro, the emperor managed to have fun, and for that he should be grateful. Pointing his hand to the side, the man says that this is all the booty that his wife got. From this moment on, she can be considered the full-fledged ruler and resident of Actilis. The banquet at the end will be dedicated to Angie as a new resident of the empire. After everything was over and everyone had returned, Raniero announced to the people that the hunt was over. The Empress managed to single-handedly catch all the loot, which was now dragged back. Now that the girl has completed the hunt, she has truly become a full-fledged resident of the state, and this is once again proven by the fact that people around are falling on their faces. No matter how you look, everyone around them worships the power that is capable of conquering everyone around them. The attitude of everyone around changed exactly from the moment the results were announced. After this, the husband also said that the banquet would be dedicated to Angelica. It should take place very soon. Evening came quite quickly. The heroine was helped to get ready by the maids, but even so, she barely pulled on an outfit that, for some reason, did not suit her. She enters the hall with her head held high. The girl was told to come closer and sit next to her. She obeys everything that is told to her, so she immediately follows closer to the king. Noticing a strange look, you have to ask what the problem is. The young man compliments the beauty, who just smiles, thanking her for what she was told. The heroine didn't even ask what the reason was, who wanted to say all this, because she perfectly understands that it doesn't mean anything. The mistake was made because, in fact, the king finally remembered his wife's face. Remembering faces is not a supernatural human skill. In the book, Raniero couldn't do this. It seemed that this was all because he was an emperor, but at the same time, such a wise man who sits on the throne must somehow pay attention to his surroundings. The man asks the Empress to come to him. She only thinks about what the problem is, because remembering faces cannot be real. He wants to know what Angie is thinking so enthusiastically about, who seems to have completely forgotten that she is at an event in her honor. Everything became noticeable in the first minutes. It's strange not to notice that the beauty began to behave a little differently, but she is trying to justify everything by saying that after those medications, she is still dizzy. Being a liar is not a good trait. The hero takes his wife to the dance floor, where they are going to dance. She had already forgotten how Raniero liked to disfigure the first dance. You should not provoke the young man even more than is necessary, otherwise the dance may not end as well as it should. The girl is afraid that she will do something wrong, because training for the hunter competition took up absolutely all her time. Relief, because Angie's body accurately remembers all the movements from the times when she lived in the kingdom of Unro. The couple moves harmoniously across the dance floor, while forcing everyone around them to give way to them ahead. The virgin almost steps on her partner's foot, but at the last moment she moves back and quickly flies to the floor. The king reaches out his hand, but she doesn't grab it and ends up on the carpet instead. Smiling, the blonde praises the beauty for how she was able to skillfully react to the current situation. If she had grabbed his hand, she would have touched his body without permission. Now we have to reap the benefits, so the heroine slowly gets up from the ground. People around them stared at the spectacle, but the king quickly scared them away, ordering them not to be distracted from what they were doing. Instead of laughing at the queen, he picks up the body in his arms to carry it aside and thereby lighten the entire heavy burden. Sitting Angie on the throne, the hero asks if she hurt herself, to which he receives a simple nod. This is actually a lie, because my back hurts incredibly bad. The girl is privately angry because she understands that the hero could have tried and caught the woman instead of testing her. Everyone is passionate about meeting new people that can help everyone in the future. The heroine looks around the entire hall, but then notices Sylvia, who, bending her knee, greets the Empress. A roar rises in the hall because Jacques dared to come to the banquet in honor of Her Majesty. One look at the daughter of the family that betrayed the king makes the aristocrats want to leave. the atmosphere becomes terrible, like a balloon that is about to burst. Everyone asks to expel Sylvia from the banquet hall so that she is not in the way. People around still can't stop complaining that a blonde has appeared. The queen interrupts the squabble. Sylvia proved her loyalty, and no matter how sinful her family was, for her sake, she was ready to make a sacrifice, giving up family ties. This makes a girl more loyal than each of the assembled aristocrats who do nothing. There is silence in the room, so the heroine understands that she obviously said something wrong. The king laughs, thanking the queen for amusing him. The girl says that she was just joking, to which she receives laughter from all sides. People tend to change their minds quite quickly. The woman came for the promised reward, so His Majesty still appoints Sylvia as the queen's chief maid. There is silence in the hall, which creeps into consciousness again. It's a pity that the ruler was not a blonde. The appointment to the post of personal maid could wait until after the banquet, but she preferred to hear everything here, in front of the entire high society. No one will dare to tolerate being rude to a girl, because such is the privilege of the Empress's personal maid. She will be under the protection of Angie, who will ensure that she receives the quality treatment she deserves. Cixin interrupts the Empress's thoughts, because he wants to allow the arriving guests who wanted to greet the queen. Banquets are the best place to make the necessary acquaintances, because the Virgin smiles. She will be happy to chat with each of the arrivals. The day drained all the strength that remained in the heroine. She no longer knows how much she needs rest. Even though it is already evening, the sun is still high, so you should walk further through the garden. The maiden still wonders why she came to the palace and why she became the new empress. His Majesty calls his wife, appearing behind her. He does not say any greetings, only announcing that the woman did a great job, which he liked very much. The girl looks quite carefree. It is worth remembering how quite recently, in the morning, she killed a man who was trying to escape. We're talking about Roberta. Not everyone would have been able to bear so calmly everything that had to be endured. The girl became a killer, even if it was in self-defense, to survive. Unfortunately, there is no fact here that could help save face for itself. In fact, if not for the circumstances, the queen would not have been able to kill a person normally, because she considers it something beyond her strength. She didn't want to do this, but she had to. In the end, things didn't end as badly as they should have. Then, at the competition, the beauty thought that the end had come for her, but in the end, everything did not end so badly. The heroine must thank the emperor, because if not for him, death would have come. For a young man, such battles are akin to ant fights, but there are two differences that still give you pause. The ants have a reason to fight, but the queen didn't have one. She was simply forced to do what she was forced to do. That is why the prince pumped the maiden with that drug. It helped open up feelings that weren't so intense. This is fun that cannot be replaced by anything. Even knowing about the consequences, the hero did not feel any guilt, but enjoyed every moment. In the end, the man didn't quite expect things to turn out this way. The girl could have tried to run away or start screaming in horror, but instead chose a more humane option in order to stay alive in this competition. The heroine, instead of drowning in darkness after what she had done, simply cheerfully entered the hall in the dress she had given her, trying to keep her head up. She wanted no one to think about what she had accomplished, not even her own conscience. At that moment, the young man felt a slight trembling, which allowed him to see the lady who had entered the hall. Only then did he truly see the beautiful face, which over time he even managed to remember as the first in his life in Actilus. Strange feelings do not leave the king. This is the first time he has been able to recognize someone's face, and it belongs to some weakling who couldn't even defend herself. Without saying anything out loud, he asks you to follow him, holding out his palm, which they cling to. They entered the imperial palace. Until that moment, the maiden had no idea what exactly he looked like, so she tried not to think about it. The spacious, deserted room with a single window is Raniero's secret room, which was not allowed to be entered. The couple stands in complete silence in a room that now makes the heroine feel special. The man doesn't say anything because he needs to know his wife's first assumptions. Angie knew about this room from the book, but who would have thought that she would manage to end up there? Indeed, the present now seemed like a kind of illusion that was about to dissipate, leaving behind only a dark reflection. Entering further to go deeper, the lady freezes. The young man begins to undress in such a secret place that he makes the girl cover herself with scarlet paint. She feels embarrassed by what she has to watch. Remaining in only his pants, the hero turns around. The first thing he notices is a reaction, so he chuckles, asking if the lady likes what she's watching. With his next step, he leans Unro against the wall, placing his hand next to his head. The young man kisses the beauty's lips, not even allowing her to resist. She doesn't say anything even after the body is released. Getting into the water, the blonde offers to join, knowing that the lady will most likely agree, because now she is looking with a languid gaze. Sitting on the edge of the bathtub, the lady puts one foot down, noticing that the water is too hot. She is unable to climb further because she does not like this temperature. The man asks to lower himself so that he can get used to it faster. Virgo still doesn't understand why the guy showed the Emperor's secret room. She would like to understand, but this does not happen, and this is what the young heroine's brain is occupied with. The facial expression seems concentrated, so to dispel doubts, the hero grabs his leg. Finding herself in the water, Angie tries to protest. The temperature doesn't bother her anymore, because the only source of embarrassment comes from the position they're in. Usually, the king likes this character trait of his beloved, but today it irritates him incredibly. Watching how the girl's hand shakes violently, the blonde sighs, saying that he allows her to touch her body. After a second, Angelica stretches her arms forward, hugging the guy by the shoulders. After several hours of relaxation in a bath of warm water, the couple finds themselves in bed. They look at each other as if trying to convey the feelings they are experiencing. Hands intertwine before getting down to business. The girl falls asleep. She is tired, and this day can be washed away at least a little, only with a good sleep, which cannot be compared with water. The husband did not allow her to fall asleep, so he chuckles, thinking that his wife has become more willful. Now it's all over, because even if the young man closes his eyes, he will still see the image of this lady. Now she is rightfully a resident of Actilis, because the people recognized her as such. From now on, people will treat her with the great respect that the Empress deserves. The girl, who took up arms just a month ago, was able to defeat much more experienced people and successfully complete the hunt. All this means only that she has enormous potential that we need to try to develop. Dreams are different. Sometimes they are good, so much so that after them you wake up, thinking that you slept well, having been in a different reality, and sometimes you want to escape. The girl tosses and turns and mutters something about a terrible dream that is haunting her. Raising the heroine's body, the young man leans her closer to him. He didn't have to think too long to realize that she was having a nightmare. It's impossible to escape from it, no matter how hard you try, so all you can do is wake up. In the dream, the maiden was chased by headless prey who had an axe. It was the body of Robert, who died this morning at the hands of Angie. To calm his beloved down a little, the man gives her a kiss, for which he has to pay, because she bites his lower lip forcefully. Everything will be completely fine, so the next dream will not be so terrible. The morning comes imperceptibly, bringing with it the rays of the sun. The ruler of the empire calls Angie by name, asking why she's ignoring him. The eyes open instantly. The girl instantly jumps in place. She asks for forgiveness for not hearing anything, while hoping that she is asked. The man ignores this, asking her to wash and change before saying anything. It didn't take that long to get ready quickly. Cician, as usual, helped pick out an outfit and get dressed, so an hour later the lady was already sitting at the table with breakfast dishes. The king's gaze is too burdensome. The beauty sits directly opposite, thinking about how she could have avoided him. It's uncomfortable to have breakfast in the main palace, given that it used to always be the Empress's castle. The girl looks down at the floor and thinks about something for just a few seconds. She wishes to go back to her palace. I had to express everything as return home, without specifying where exactly. Virgo completely forgot exactly how to say everything, so she got confused. Realizing that the mistake needs to be smoothed out, the beauty says that she does not know what she is saying, since she just recently woke up. In response, she is asked if she slept well at night. It was actually a little exciting. On this day, Sylvia must enter the Empress's palace, and she, as the hostess, is a little worried. Most likely, the lady just wants to go home, so she lies again. The blonde knows everything very well, so he wants to mock the woman to the maximum. After a wave of anger, the heroine accidentally notices a wound on her lip, which appeared as if out of nowhere. Yesterday, it was not there, because it is quite noticeable. Noticing the gaze, the young man frowns. Virgo asks for forgiveness because she's simply worried that there is blood on her lip. Leaning to be closer, the hero offers to take a closer look. This was done by Angie herself, who freezes in horror because she does not consider herself crazy. The girl does not know what to choose as the answer to give. Perhaps this really is her doing, but this could be just another mockery. This is impossible, because the lady would never dare to injure His Majesty. It's doubtful she still had her head on her shoulders if she'd already done something like that. It is so the young man nods. He remains silent, only to later say that the wound on his lip was the result of a terrible crime that was committed. Punishment must be given for this terrible deed. That is why the young man is not going to send his wife back to the castle. The man who injured his lip should be punished, but Angelica, who did it, for some reason still wants to return to the Empress's palace as if nothing had happened. The girl will always be there, but that's not that important. Every morning, the Emperor sorts out letters from other countries. During the day, he has meetings, and at night, he trains. There will be no opportunity to leave only if you try to sneak away during his negotiations, which will happen soon. Raniero's punishment is brutal. The young man ordered the lady to stand next to him. She didn't sit anywhere because there wasn't a single chair around that would fit. Calling the butler, the hero asks to bring a chair. If the girl continues to stand in one place, everyone around may think that she is looking down on the king. An apology immediately follows. The desire to be higher than the emperor is understandable, but this does not mean anything. Unro became more flexible. The man asks the girl to quickly get up from the floor. She is not going to kneel when the chair is brought, because they will think who knows what. Sisian and Duchess Nemra stayed at home, so I want to go back even more. The young man is distracted from his studies, noticing a letter from the temple. The Temple of Tunia is located in barren lands without a master. Those who gave up fertility remained here as followers. Relations between the Actolus Empire and the Kingdom of Sambinia are strained. The reason lies in the empire itself, but now they are asking for help in a friendly manner. All the letters are rather boring, so the man turns to the queen. He is surprised because she accidentally fell asleep. The blonde leans closer to wake the girl. She apparently lost her mind, since she suddenly fell asleep right on the prepared chair. The beauty managed to wake up, but she was very scared. She jumped in surprise and fell silent until an idea appeared in her head. I would like to look at the letters that arrived, or for Raniero to give her some work. The Empress has the right to know the affairs of the kingdom, but this is not the time yet. There is silence in the room, so the heroine begins to get nervous that she said something wrong. Thoughts are written on the face. This kind of thing amuses the king for now. He leaves everything as it is, not intending to dispel the doubts of the maiden, who is already ready to scream. Actolus dragged his wife along with him all day. It got to the point that she was nearby even during meals and political meetings. She had to stay even during the night training, which made the girl tired. Because of the man, the lady was on edge for 2 days. The Duchess, noticing the state of her mistress, covers her with a blanket. It's not so cold outside anymore since it's summer, but the nights are still not ideal. Bowing her head, the girl thanks. She is glad that at least someone is helping her in this whole deceitful environment. Nemra says the couple looks good. All because people think so, because in reality, everything is completely different. The only thing the Empress wants is the indifference of the Emperor, so that he forgets about her existence, from the word in general. Sylvia, standing to the side, looks sadder than usual. Initially, it was necessary to organize a welcome party in honor of work on the first day. Because of Raniero, nothing worked out. The woman bows her head, saying that the hunt was worthy of medals. The girl who recently arrived was truly loved by the entire empire. Everyone is looking forward to meeting Her Majesty. Banquets that were cancelled will be held. It was wrong to act in such a way, but Nemra was expecting something like this, so she allowed the rumors to leak into social circles. The brunette didn't say so much to make one want to think about devotion. She simply expressed that the king is a sincere person. At the beginning of next month, all people who wanted an appointment can meet with Unro at a designated time each. This opportunity is not given to everyone, but in her head, the queen is already screaming in fear. There are less than 3 weeks left in which to prepare. Judging by the situation after her debut, the girl will also be responsible for the affairs of the imperial palace. Even if Unro became a member of high society, she has no advantage. Once the summer solstice festival is over, something else will have to be done. This only makes you more tired. 15 days left. Virgo was so immersed in her studies that she did not notice how time flew by. There are too many details to remember. It feels like your head is about to explode. It's impossible to remember everything that was so difficult to read, and it's scary. Duchess Nemra gave the book, saying that you need to remember everything, even if it is not clear. Classes are interrupted by Raniero, who snatches the little thing. The young man has recently begun to visit the Empress's palace too often, which worries the woman who wants peace. After several minutes, the hero makes a verdict that the activity is useless. It doesn't matter who gave it, because everything is clear. In such a situation, all you need to do is raise your head and smile arrogantly. This will work best. We can say that the Virgin does not know anyone and does not want to know, but she will still allow her to tell her name. This would be a greeting from the king. The girl is the wife of a man who behaves in much the same way. They should fit together best. A woman who lives and is in a relationship with the king must be powerful. She can't try to please everyone around her. It is not clear that the lady does not like to imitate the man, so the best option is to follow the instructions that are given. As far as we know, the maiden is very weak-willed. If she does not like to do as her husband wants, it is better to keep her emotions in check. The blonde is right about something. A girl always has it all written all over her face. Now he notices the changes and asks if he should say hello to her. Everything is fine, so the conversation ends on a good note. A week later, the day of that very festive banquet arrived. Since the very morning, Cician had been fussing over the Empress, so, after a while, she announced that the banquet needed to be cancelled so as not to spoil anything. It's possible, but not entirely. In any case, you will have to, because the menstrual cycle is irregular and accompanied by severe cramps. Raniero foresaw everything. He really knew that the lady was unwell, but she could not think that this was the reason. There is nothing more important than the Queen's health. With all due respect, Her Majesty's position has only calmed down, so Nemra is not backing down. Both girls are right, so the lady shuts them up. This opportunity cannot be missed, because everyone still remembers how the beauty showed herself during the hunt. The celebration will take place as scheduled. Painkillers should help you get through the day around the rest. As soon as the Duchess leaves, the beauty reminds Her Majesty that she has already suffered a lot. You can't relax. Cician always worries about the princess, so she remains on her side. She is ready to make any sacrifice for the sake of her family. In fact, life in the Empire is far from easy, so the feelings are understandable. The brunette is just adapting. Since Unro is already there, we need to come to terms with it. The banquet begins. The pills hardly helped, so the heroine shrinks from the pain inside that devours her. Usually, everything is individual, because every person is different, but the lady did not think that the spasms would be so strong. In any case, it's too late to regret, because there is no turning back. You just need to be patient to overcome each obstacle. All invitees were personally selected by the Duchess. Walking forward, the beauty greets everyone, hoping they will enjoy themselves. The choice fell on those with ambitions, and those whose connections could be useful to the Queen in the future. Everyone stands in a line. Due to pain in the lower abdomen, the lady cannot concentrate, so she does not remember the information she needs about people. There was no need to be stubborn, but simply cancel the event. Now I want to run away to lie under a warm blanket and relax. The girl realizes that it is too late to retreat, so she asks everyone to line up. She doesn't know anyone. This only means that you just have to get acquainted with everything. You don't need to come close to see your interlocutor. It's a pity for the Duchess, but the maiden is not going to let her reputation be killed because of her own weakness. It's better to take the initiative into your own hands. Pointing her finger forward, the lady chuckles. Apparently someone is making her wait too long, which doesn't seem so funny anymore. The brunette introduces herself as Acubella Doshino. She is the wife of Count Doshino, and even if it is not prestigious, they own their own mine. Then a count of everyone who knows each other begins. Virgo smiles, saying that she is glad to meet everyone. The introduction is over, and Nemra hands over a mug of tea. Her Majesty surprised the maiden, because she did not think that everything would go this way. The lady seems upset that the event was so unpredictable. Normally, the Queen would not do this, but it was a necessary measure. The heroine clears her throat, reminding Madame that she came to serve, not to restore order. She should worry about the girl's health. This woman is very smart, so she senses boundaries and never crosses them. She immediately asks for forgiveness. Then everything goes relatively calmly. The only negative was fatigue, which gradually began to overtake the beauty. People begin to turn around sharply. The Emperor appears and enters the hall, greeting his wife first. Stepping forward, the blonde laughs, saying he has no idea who they all are. He behaves exactly the same as the woman earlier. Looking around the hall, The young man announces his desire to be close to the Empress. He came just for this. The next step is for the handsome man to pick up the girl in his arms. He is going to take her with him to save her from all this fuss. It will be much more pleasant for a wife to spend time with her husband than to fade away with some incomprehensible aristocrats. The guests are confused. This act shows complete disrespect for the maids, who will have to clean it up themselves. Virgo felt incredibly stupid and awkward, but strangely, for some reason she was happy to see her husband for the first time. At the Empress's castle, the couple was met by maids who remained inside. One of them turned out to be Sylvia. The Empress is not feeling well. The girls think that they should help, but completely ignoring them, the young man leaves. Finally, he says that he will do everything himself. The emperor is becoming more and more a darling. When they got married, the lady could not even think about such tenderness. It is obvious that he is not burdened by all this trouble, but he does it voluntarily to help. We need a new painkiller. Sitting down next to him, the blonde begins to speak. The woman couldn't be prouder, because she decided to immediately turn the whole event inside out. It was lucky that people were slow-witted. You won't find any discerning people in this country, because there are very, very few of them. Jumping up sharply, the lady remembers that according to the king's plan, there should be a political audit. He somehow ended up at the banquet. The topic at the meeting was not worth attention. He thought it would be better to leave the question to the ladies to make the right decision. Actilus is the strongest empire, so this approach is not correct. Smiling, the lady asks about the topic. The theme turned out to be the Temple of Thunia. This is the refuge of the main character, Seraphina. There should be a meeting very soon. The letter actually arrived from the temple. They have no power, the local soil is devoid of fertility, and no one needs their lands anymore. Actilus didn't even respond to the letter because he decided that something like that wasn't worth his attention as such. From the novella, the girl knows that Thunia almost always tried to reconcile the two superpowers, but they could not come together. The letter is not related to Sambia. It says that the time of hatching of demon eggs is coming, so the king will come to take them. It's a lot of fun when you have to grant a merciful death to demonic creatures. The God of Mercy has given lands where it is impossible to avoid massacres. Raniero will not miss another bloodshed. The young man is going to agree, and now nothing will stop him. Noticing the maiden's gaze, the hero offers to lay her head on his lap, and then possible condescension will be shown. Suddenly, Seraphina's presence began to be felt. Perhaps the temple will send envoys, some of whom will include her. You need to think rationally. If the plot follows the original story, Seraphina has no business being an Actilus this early. The first meeting was supposed to be in winter, but the couple became closer, which was not the case in the original. We can only hope that this did not affect the plot in any way. While the girl was thinking about what could have changed, the young man put candy in her mouth. She likes sweets. For Raniero, this is just another game that is not worth attention. The plus is that the girl was given at least something tasty. His Majesty is distracted from a conversation with his wife. She asks if her husband will allow her to live at least until winter. For the Empress, the hero promises to do everything possible. You can't believe the words, but this time I really want to. Not much time passed, but from the moment the new banquet was disrupted, a new one was not planned. Angie tries to focus on the Temple of Thunia, which occupies all her thoughts. Virgo wants to get all the possible information that was in the book. The plot is already known, but reasons are needed. If the couple meets earlier than expected, then the main character will be in trouble. In this case, she will not even live to see winter. There is information in the book. Saint Thunia is the most important being in the temple, so she does not leave it or have contact with the outside world. The girl is ready to scream with anger because she was hoping to find something more than just one line. It's still better than nothing. The original story talks about the connection between Thunia and the god Attila. She had a vague idea of how powerful a force one could possess. There were more stories in the novel, even about demonic beasts, than about Seraphina, who also remained the main one. We also learned that when there is no food, the temple messengers hunt and then eat the prey in the form of animals in the forest. Not far from the temple, there are lands where demonic beasts live. After increasing in numbers, they began to attack human lands. The arrival of the animals was called a wave. The sanctuary has always served as a barrier, but this time it is obvious that something has gone wrong. In any case, Seraphina should not come to Actilus, so my soul becomes lighter. The realization of a certain fact came to mind quite quickly. The beauty realized that she was still missing something. When going on a mission to destroy demons, you need to cross the temple grounds. They can meet there. If everything has come down to such little things, the lady should watch her behavior because she doesn't even have an escape plan. When these two meet, the maiden plans to fight and never appear even close to the empire again. Several days passed and everyone was tense. The day to set off has arrived, bringing its own worries. The first diplomatic delegation to be greeted since the wedding arrived from Tunia. The Empress goes to the meeting. A blond man appears right in the middle of the corridor. He looks menacingly, asking his wife why she didn't have breakfast. It's not like she's looking forward to greeting the temple messengers, so the lady says she feels a little bad, knowing she's lying. That's not how things are done. In this case, the best option would be not to meet with the delegation yourself. When the young man leaves, the lady grabs him, but immediately apologizes. She didn't want to do anything, but she can't wait to participate. The girl is now also a resident of Actilis, and in addition has become the wife of the emperor. She has every right to do what she sees fit. Seeing the lady off with him, the young man points to the throne. Once the Thunian believers arrive, Actilis greets them. Those who have arrived bow their heads. They are not the type to bend the knee, but they still do it purely out of respect. The queen's eyes widen. The archbishop arrived in person, which the heroine certainly did not expect. She thought there would only be messengers. Also present in the ranks is Eden, who is also Seraphina's first love. We also know about him from the novel. The Holy Knights of Tunia are those who have managed to become strong warriors and also resist the demonic beasts. Eden is not a very important character, but thanks to his innate skills, he rose to the top of the Order of Holy Knights. This young man showed great promise. In the original, the saint always yearned for her lover and could not wait for him for long, but he was killed immediately by the hands of Raniero. A man who truly deserved better met a tragic end. Unfortunately, he never saw anything. The blonde asks to prove his devotion. Those who ask him for help must understand what exactly they are getting into. What the arrivals have already said is not enough, but they are trying to take sides to convince the man. Out of mercy, the guy will not accept any offerings. After the words, an ominous premonition appears that does not leave the main hall. Pointing his finger at the men, the hero orders them to kneel and pray for salvation. Otherwise, nothing will happen. The girl knew that everything would be like this, but she hoped until the last. Raniero begins to lose patience, saying that they should hurry up. Even if the priest returned, the strength of the temple alone would not be enough to cope with the wave. There are too many animals. The archbishop is waiting for something. At such moments, it is best to humble yourself and kneel so as not to interfere with your people and plans. The first is Eden, who goes to bow. He bows his head, showing his respect to the emperor exactly as he asks. After everyone bows down, the blond man starts laughing, saying it's hilarious. Sometimes there are similarities with a real villain. The girl returned to the Empress's palace. She never understood why Eden did this, because no one forced him to be the first. In the original, the young man has a rebellious, stubborn character, so he will never agree to what he considers wrong. Even if everyone kneels, he will stand with his head held high. From this, it follows that something is not quite right. The maids had already begun to discuss Eden, because they had been watching him in the last hours. It seemed to them that no one could compare with the emperor, but that was not the case. The envoys from the Temple of Thunia decided to stay in Actilis for 10 days. A woman, as a resident of the empire, must take care of the guests. You need to do everything possible to dedicate yourself to those who have arrived. If you don't do everything right, the consequences will be disastrous. The emperor comes up from behind, placing his hands on Angie's waist. He caught her halfway there, before she disappeared from sight. The girl is about to ask how exactly the young man ended up here, but he asks if he needs a special reason to come. The heroine thought that the young man had something to talk about with the archbishop, and was sure that he was busy. That is why the emotion of surprise slipped through. The conversation will be postponed until later. The blonde is silent, so we can only assume that he refused because it annoys him. The princess originally wanted to discuss dinner. Most likely, not all people will be able to fit at the dinner table, so we just have to wait for the order. Trying to reassure his wife, the young man assures that there is really nothing to worry about. Everything has already been settled, so you should go to the castle. The virgin is about to head home because she has received permission, but the blonde man heads with her. For some time now, the lady has been showing great interest in the temple, and it is noticeable. Having given up studying the secular world, she sought information about Tunia. Despite feeling unwell, the princess insisted on attending an audience with the temple envoys in the hall. The Empress's homeland and the Temple of Thunia are located far from each other. Therefore, there is no way they can cooperate under any circumstances. The man throws back memories of the moment when he managed to bring everyone to their knees. The brunette had an honest look. The next day, the girl found out about dinner, which would take place very soon. She asks about the decision on the people who will come. The blonde does not pay attention to his wishes, and for the first time asks who the lady sitting opposite would like to see. The girl would like to see the archbishop, the captain of the Holy Knights, and 2 elderly priests. This order seems to be the best. Unro herself may like this, but there is no denying the fact that the choice is a little boring, especially for the hot blood of the king. In the end, the girl gives up. She doesn't know who should be present since they ended up meeting for the first time a day ago. 2 months ago, the answer would have seemed boring, but most likely the lady would not be meeting Eden at the dinner table in front of everyone. The young man decides to switch to something more pleasant, so he pulls the beauty closer to him. He grabs her hand. Angie likes her flexibility, but this time everything should be different. The young man asks to kiss her. After that very day, the emperor ordered Sisian to monitor Eden's actions in order to know when they would finally meet. The girl learned from her friend that the man reads the same book almost all the time. It is different from the one the priest carries with him. At some point, the brunette even thought that the knight was reading a book in secret. He did not try to show it to others, remaining as secretive as possible. The man from the temple cannot hide something forbidden, but no one knows for sure. Perhaps it's something important. Don't make baseless assumptions. If you want to confirm a guess, you can't put everything on Sisian. Before entering the hall, the girl asks the brunette to say that she doesn't feel well. There are more important things to do. On the day of the duel, the lady had already turned to Nemra. The girl asked to watch the duel with other maids and then report back. The woman did not immediately understand what needed to be done. You can't have fun when Her Majesty is sitting at home feeling unwell. In truth, everyone wants to see the show, so it didn't take much persuasion. Sisian will be in charge. After the maidens scolded the Duchess at a social event, the maids began to monitor their behavior. The heroine doesn't ask for too much. She only needs this to find out who ultimately became the winner. While everyone left, the Empress decided to go to the library. At this time, the room should be completely empty without prying eyes. There is no one, so it is clear that everyone is passionate about the duel. Of course, this makes sense, since Actilus's people are obsessed with these fights. The Holy Knights were placed not so far from the palace, so the Queen calculated everything. Eden must follow the road to the library. Everything came together. He didn't have to wait too long because a brunette appeared in the distance and headed to the place where he was going. Jumping out of the bushes, Angelica forces the knight to stop. He is looking for something important, but nothing will come of it because there is nothing around. There are very few books in the library that visitors can read. They can only be read by members of the imperial family. The man was caught off guard, but even so, his tone and face did not express fear. The young man is completely calm. Pretending that the name is not known, the maiden asks Eden for it. He answers quite quickly, also adding that he has dedicated himself to Tunya. There are no other names, because the hero decided to become a paladin. The girl interrupts, saying that she was asking about something else. The name of interest is the one given by God to Tunya, not the one given at birth. There must be something else to apply. If the lady is wrong, she will leave immediately. She just wants to know the truth, no matter what it ends up being to the ears. The man still tells the truth. His real name is Cha Soo-hyun. The question immediately arises, does he know the book, Flowers Grow Even in the Abyss? It turned out that the young man had read the book and was also reborn. It happened around the 18th of May when they both got here. Eden is surprised that he is not the only one who ended up in this world. He never thought that he would have to face something like this. Virgo almost falls from surprise. All this time she thought that she was completely alone, however, in the end she was very lucky. Tears flow out of their eyes on their own, falling to the ground. The heroine asks for forgiveness because she forced her maid to follow. Giving his hand to help Angie up, Cha asks the girl's name. She asks to call herself simply the Empress because everyone around her does so. Eden is glad to meet Her Majesty. I would never have thought that I would be able to meet someone with a similar situation as his. The girl nods. She didn't know that this would be real, because in the original, she had to face death almost immediately. The man couldn't understand how his friend guessed it, but she read the original. The actions were so different that it was impossible not to notice them. In any case, the queen cannot stay in one place for long. The conversation should remain unnoticed as much as possible. Before leaving, Angie remembers what she wanted to ask. She heard the young man reading a book. The hero read about forbidden black magic, because he thinks that because of this, he ended up in a new world. I would like to know everything in detail. The problem is that the heroine has read too many novels of this genre. The rebirth was ordinary, white, so she didn't even ask the question why this happened to her. Since the young lady believed that only she was able to move, it means that the emperor is not a migrant from another world. The king could not return to the new world. He's just a crazy guy, just like in the original. It feels like a weapon is being pointed at the girl every day. The only thing that unites the new couple is their support for the deceased characters in the original. We need to figure out what to do next. The first step is to try to remove the spell in order to return back to where the man lived before. Most often, migrants do not return to the worlds from which they came. Even this information became known from books. The knights are going on a campaign. Horses must be subdued before you can climb on top of them and ride forward. The Empire Knight orders the sacred to finish quickly so they don't have to wait another eternity. The emperor, sitting on his throne, carefully watches how the horses below come running along with their riders. His Majesty did not like the picture that he was able to see, so he leaves. It shouldn't be boring. Cician, who remained in charge of the Empress's palace, meets the king, who arrived rather suddenly. Obviously, the brunette thinks that she will have problems with the fact that the young man has arrived at the palace. He grins at this reaction. Entering his wife's room, the blonde throws the sheet off the bed. The lady said she wasn't feeling well and just went missing. The maid tries to say something, but is silenced. The hero does not want to talk because he might listen to his wife's excuses. As you know, the paladin Eden was an exception to the rule. He does not participate in sparring, so he did not go to the site. The girl is trying to find out all the little details from Cha Su-hyun. He lives in the Temple of Thunia, so perhaps he has already seen the saint. In the beginning, it was quite strange to feel like you didn't know what to do. The lady was nervous that Serafina would come with a delegation and meet the king. Lowering his eyes to the floor, the brunette says something about a woman, but still shuts up. Perhaps something has already happened to her. She is fine, but the lady suspects that the guy has fallen in love with the girl. It's quite the opposite, because there are no feelings. The heroine still doesn't understand what exactly we are talking about. I can't believe that the girl is more eccentric than in the original, and this interferes with everything. The brunette is going to tell the truth. In fact, he doesn't really know her, because he avoided all meetings in every possible way. It is strange that nothing is known about this couple, because over time, memories of the heroes are transferred to a new body and consciousness. The feelings that the owner's body experiences are so strong that one has to remain under their influence. All there is a distorted image. All this time, the lady assumed that there were mutual feelings between Eden and Serafina. He does not dare say that he hates a woman. For men, norms and morals have always been in the foreground. He believed that it was inappropriate for a saint to have feelings for a holy knight. Angie did not think that the terrible truth would be revealed. She tries to accept this and asks if the young man will go to catch the demonic beasts. The hero wants to look there at the great library of the abandoned temple on the border. It's impossible to find clues using conventional methods, so you have to take risks. The queen believes this is the right choice. I wish I could return back to my worlds as soon as possible. Virgo is going to explore the library. If she needs any information, she will then tell it to the young man in the Order of the Temple of Thunia. The brunette blinks his eyes in surprise. It turns out that the queen is also going on a mission of suppression, which will take place very soon. Angie had been planning this trip from the very beginning, but had not yet told the emperor. Don't ask unnecessary questions. Soo-hyun is not going to be interested in anything, so he simply promises that they will see each other soon. It would be better to return before the friendly sparring ends. The virgin managed to return safe and sound. The mood has lifted a little, so the beauty enters the palace with a smile. A surprise awaits the heroine in the main hall. She comes across a blond man sitting with his legs crossed. The wife seemed to be feeling unwell. The girl claims that she went for a walk because she had a headache. Her hands are shaking, making it clear that this is not true, but she is just afraid. The heroine met with that same knight, but now she is trying to justify herself. The body shrinks into a ball. The young man becomes vulnerable. He is nervous because these two decided not to show up for the sparring and went off to an unknown location. There is no problem, and it needs to be thrown out of your head. Even if the wife likes that man, there is no reason to be angry. The emperor cannot be jealous of an aunt. If the beauty wants that knight so badly, there is no problem. They can have fun. When the hero wants to run his hand through his hair, the girl shrinks into a ball. She was scared because they wanted to touch her. Tears begin to flow down his cheeks, and as soon as it is noticeable, the young man sits on his knees to tuck his hair behind his ear, calming him down. This woman is ridiculously weak. This conclusion was made a long time ago, and it did not take much time. Bowing, the emperor hugs his wife. She asks if he's angry, and he shakes his head. You shouldn't talk about anger so as not to scare. Covering his eyes, the hero promises that nothing bad happened. Everything is fine, and he knows it is so. This is the first time Raniero has managed to completely fool Angie. In a relationship where both parties know each other poorly, a turning point has begun to occur. The feelings returned quickly. The lady thought that she would die of fear because she was incredibly scared. It is impossible that Raniero would be so angry just because of the absence of a girl who usually goes wherever she wants on her own. At some point, everything turned out completely wrong. Perhaps the reason is a meeting with Soo-hyun, who is known about. We can only hope that the handsome man did not understand that the woman was up to something. No one knows that these two have been reborn. One way or another, Raniero must not be out of sight for some time. It's better not to spoil the mood. Everything should be exactly like this, but at some point the plan collapses. The Holy Knights of Tunia arrived once again at the imperial palace. He is so beautiful that you cannot deny yourself the pleasure. The brunette turns away. He pretends that he does not understand what his acquaintance is talking about in order to remain unnoticed. Noticing this strategy, the girl even praises the boy in her head. We need to continue to pretend that nothing is happening. Smiling, the beauty invites His Majesty to quickly leave so as not to be left alone with the knights anymore. Leaning the woman's body closer, the young man smiles. She manages to be so sweet that it's impossible not to get over it. His Majesty takes care of his guests, hoping that the night went well. The brunette thanks them for the honor they were given. While the conversation continues, the young man smooths the queen's hair. It's as if he's trying to make a pet out of her. Usually the hero does this in front of the maids to show the family idol, but here the reason lies elsewhere. The woman had previously mentioned that this man was crazy, and now Eden was convinced of it. He looks strange, and his behavior is scary. Then the blonde leans over to gently kiss the beauty before she manages to go somewhere. Looking straight into the brunette's eyes, the king kisses the queen, as if trying to prove something. It's still not clear what exactly he's doing. Putting his hand on the Empress's shoulder, the blonde notices that the woman wants privacy, so they can leave the knights right at that very moment. Now that she has time to think things over, the beauty realized that when they met in the garden of the palace, Raniero was looking only at Eden. The fear becomes real. The king could recognize the content of the dialogue, or understand everything completely wrong. To prevent the knight from realizing something incredible, the beauty gives the letter to Sicien, asking her not to open it. Everything must remain secret. The brunette didn't think that the heroine would be very worried. She is afraid that His Majesty found out everything, which is why he behaved so strangely. The woman demanded an answer immediately. Hearing the phrase, "I'm not sure," she becomes hysterical with a bit of aggression. Even the maid noticed that the lady had changed a lot since they left the kingdom of Unro. It was like a different person had fallen into place. On the day when it was decided to marry Emperor Actylus, one felt sorry for the princess who was constantly crying. She decided to live abroad when she got married. Angelica, who now lives in the palace, seems like a completely different person. However, Sicien is still a devoted servant, so she simply has to ask what leads to this. She starts a conversation. Immediately predicting the conversation, the lady understands that the conversation will be about letters to the knight from Tunia. Perhaps she harbors unclean thoughts. The girl apologizes for making her doubt her actions. I didn't want to cause pain with the silence that dragged on. The lady doesn't understand why they don't tell her anything. This has never happened before, so more questions arise. Tears follow immediately after the words. Attempts to calm the maid were not immediately successful as planned. That knight doesn't care about the queen. She wants to know more about the saint from Thunia. One must think about when the lady first took up the study of the temple. All the confusion and interest began even before the saints from the temple arrived. This means that everything is in perfect order, no matter how you look at it. Partly the truth was told, partly a lie, but this is no longer so important. The woman asks why the choice fell on him. The heroine felt as if the man had no friends, so she wanted to help with loneliness. There is no other explanation. This man has been walking around alone since Ilkin's time and reading supposedly banned books. He is a ranked knight with no sense of belonging to an organization. It was for this reason that the Virgin thought that he would talk about the saint without hesitation. Now, Sicien understood everything. According to the heroine, she does not intend to cheat on her husband and have fun with various new people. Raniero himself is listening to this. There is no point in worrying. These words bring a slight smile to the man's lips, which he immediately suppresses so as not to admit it. Angelica values this maid very much. They say that in the kingdom of Unro they were like sisters, so she's not lying. The brunette remembers the day when the beauty cried because of her new life. She has now become a well-respected empress and one who has adapted well. After wearing the mask almost every day, the young lady began to feel tired, but His Majesty is quite nice. Over time, Unro will love the new country a little more. There will be no such thing that you have to resign yourself and close your mouth and remain silent. Unless the lady dies during the winter hunt, she will be able to do everything just fine. They have already forgotten about the competition. The hero does not know why Angie suddenly has a reason to be interested in St. Tunia. In any case, this can be found out during the expedition. Knowing that everything will work out, the hero smiles to himself. Looking out the window at the moon and stars, the man notices that the moon is brighter than ever. It completely illuminates the entire sky. Angie looks in the same direction as her husband. It turns out that the light falls in a beautiful path forward, which is a pleasure. Raniero acts as if he has been replaced. He tries to joke, seem nice, and act as nice as possible towards the girl. What makes the Empress happy is the fact that His Majesty is happy too. She can't help but be happy when he's in a good mood too. It is strange and funny that this fact was not known. Virgo is generally quite a funny person, so the tendency manifests itself. Previously, the heroine's answers were indifferent. Something has definitely changed. Now the young man asks to stroke his head. Raniero asks about other things the girl likes. He's weird because he doesn't usually care about other people's feelings. The blonde doesn't care about anything around him except his own mood, which is the most important thing for everyone. As always, this is the most important thing. So after a second the hero gets out of bed, because the hand froze, stopping going through his hair. The girl is a resident of Actilus, so she should automatically love him. Anyone can speak in riddles. Obviously, it's like answering the question the first time, so the beauty changes the topic, while talking about the same thing. In this case, I would like to say that I want to leave the empire and live in another country. If this is not possible, the guy should stop visiting. If only the heroine had the courage to say something like that, it would be good. For now, she is just silent. Looking into her eyes, the girl asks to join the expedition to catch animals. This is possible, but for now, they are playing silent. The heroine knows that this is not the answer to the question posed, but before that the young man asked about what would be good to receive. If the husband had allowed joining this expedition, he would have made his wife the happiest person in this world. Only after this has been said does the heroine think about it. Usually she, like a coward, is afraid of everything, but now she wants to watch bloody scenes. Nodding his head, the blonde promises that he will take the beauty with him. He doesn't pay attention and doesn't ask unnecessary questions. The girl's eyes widen in surprise. She had never seen a young man look like that before. Of all the people in the world, to see this on Raniero's face is extremely surprising. The entity that had shown itself so far was like a beast. Now the man's facial expression is harmless. He doesn't try to seem angry by accepting every affection. Catching herself in bad thoughts, Angie slowly realizes that she is weakening before the beauty of this man. Don't be deceived. This man could go crazy at any moment. His attitude changes depending on his mood. It pays to be reasonable. In a couple of days, Actilus was supposed to become the same as before, but surprisingly, this did not happen, and he remained just as cute. Fairy Tinkerbell sprinkled fairy dust on him, or someone instructed him to behave decently with a woman. The Archbishop arrived at the meeting just in time. He thanks the young man for the reception they received, saying that everyone had a good rest. There is no need for gratitude. Just the thought that he will have to see them all on the expedition makes the hero sad. The couple glares at each other. The girl understands what exactly this can lead to, but does not know what she can do. It's funny to realize that Raniero is only kind to Angie, who never understood why this did not apply to others. Turning to the queen, the young man asks if she was bored. She remains silent before she says anything. Raniero behaves like a primitive protagonist in an equally primitive love story, and it's frightening. Usually, in short stories, this is exactly what happens when the characters are in love with each other. Everything should be different here. It should be a good sign that Actilus has become kinder, but you can't just accept it. Falling onto the bed, the lady exhales heavily. She doesn't understand anything at all, even if she tries her best. Immediately after marriage, even touching was disgusting. Over time, the young man began to untie the invisible knots of his soul. The heroine doesn't know if she can escape before her husband loses interest in her. The plan may not work exactly as it should. The blonde also doesn't quite understand what's going on in Unro's head. She doesn't give an honest answer to the question, she's just trying to dodge the truth. The same thing happened when she asked to take herself on an expedition. I was just wondering what the woman liked. But she didn't say anything. A few days ago, after a conversation, a desire awoke. The young man realized that Angie was afraid of him, was constantly silent, and looked into his eyes less and less. Now the hero wants to see the beauty's big smile, which she will give to him. He wants to take possession of her completely. The desire cannot be overcome. The man wants the girl to fall in love with him, designating him as the most important person in life. If only the heroine knew what was going on in her husband's head, she would have tried to fight or get scared long ago. Time flies too fast. Autumn has arrived, and the expedition to tame the animals begins in a week. Virgo managed to look through most of the books that mention magic. She found nothing about people and movements from another world. It became obvious that he and Eden were an exception that could not be attributed to anyone. It will be difficult to get back. There is nothing left to do but go to the great vault of the abandoned temple that Cha Soo-hyun spoke about. There must be an answer there. His Majesty, as usual, sneaks up from behind. Previously, the girl read other literature, but obviously, her interests had changed. Laughing awkwardly, the lady says that she is a bookworm. In fact, I needed to find books on dark magic for a friend. Sitting down next to him, the young man asks about the places he would like to see during the expedition. There is nothing specific. Smiling, he suddenly remembers the saint who always sits in the temple of Tunya. Once upon a time, the lady was interested in her. The voice does not want to tune into normal, so the lady still stutters and asks a question about Serafina. Fear and sadness flash in her eyes when the heroine asks if the man wants to see the saint very soon. Taking into account interests, the hero agrees to what he wants. In response, a protest is heard, which seems even more suspicious and illogical. Lowering her eyes to the floor, the lady tries to explain that Serafina is too beautiful, so much so that the roses themselves envy her. If His Majesty looks at that woman, the queen will be in big trouble. This shouldn't happen. Hurdling the lady's pride, thereby driving her into a trap, the young man asks if she will stand in the way. These are not what I wanted to say. Excuses are not suitable, because the further you go, the worse everything gets. The lady can't come to terms with what she's saying. The wife would not dare to behave inappropriately, so she understands that she needs to try to at least somehow do everything in the best possible way for herself. Descending closer, the hero chuckles. He puts his hand on the top of her head, asking the girl to do the same thing again. At least until the expedition, the maiden asks not to think about that saint. She doesn't live in Actilus, so this will be much easier. 10 days later, the expedition began. For her, many different knights were collected and ready to go into battle. Raniero mounted his horse, and the girl sat in the cart. She knows how to ride horses, but the man insisted on doing something different. In any case, you will have to get out of the carriage, but later. A faster way to reach the region is through the base of the mountain range. Due to the poorly paved road, the carriage will not pass through such terrain. For now, comfort comes first, since they have already decided so. The only ones who were taken into the squad in case of different situations were Cician and Sylvia. To quickly escape, you need to have 2 people with you. People say that the Empress should treat Jacques as a trophy because they think it will show the confidence of the winner. The higher the queen's value, the lower the maid's reputation. Even if the maiden does something suspicious during the expedition, the blonde will not tell anyone. All this is because no one will believe such a weak girl who has already come from a family of liars. 3 days later, the convoy arrived at the mountain range. They were forced to walk the entire distance, and, as expected, Actilians had amazing physical abilities. The girl was tired, even in the carriage. The door opens, and the young man asks to go outside. He's not used to being kept waiting all the time. His Majesty pulls the lady by the hand, helping her to get off the carriage. Every movement seems incredibly precise. In such an area, it is not the most suitable place to go to bed, so the question remains why she was called. Before going any further, the man asks if the girl likes all sorts of cute things. She nods, and they walk further, holding hands. As the couple walked, darkness fell around them. The sky slowly became less bright, and stars and the moon appeared around. They only walk for about 20 or 30 minutes, although it feels too far. It's difficult to climb up the rock. Since the heroine likes things that are small and shiny and cute, she ended up there. She examines the view with her mouth open. The young man's face turns slightly scarlet, which happens for the first time. He asks you to smile if you like everything. Angie should express her gratitude either through facial expressions or some kind words that she says next. There are a whole bunch of butterflies around. They glow slightly, causing the beauty to blink her eyes in surprise, because she has never seen anything like this before. Turning to His Majesty, the girl wants to say something, but instead the guy kisses her lips faster than anything. The next step, the young man knocks Unro onto the ground among the flowers. He continues to tirelessly repeat the name of the Empress. The way the man behaves is even stranger. If he was going to do what he had planned, it would be best not to say the name so intoxicatingly. Raniero is obviously holding back. He brought the lady there because he wanted her to smile, which means the mood is important to him. After more kisses, the young man asks what Angie likes. This time, she responds by saying that she likes the usual calm. Calmness in itself is boring, so the young man immediately moves forward. He is not going to immediately love everything the same as the Virgin. The girl behaves too naively and primitively. Perhaps nothing will happen if everything remains as it is beforehand. The man standing in front of the Empress is the nephew of the god of war, a battlefield demon who considers all people to be inferior beings. Because of this man, the girl had already been on the verge of death 1,000,000 times. He doesn't care about anyone but himself. Clutching her dress with force, the girl finally begins to speak. She is outraged that such nice things are said, as if she is special. There are too many questions, but the lady is undoubtedly an exception. When he cries, when he is afraid, when he rejoices, everything is remembered. A smile is the rarest thing. The young man knows almost nothing about her, because he saw her extremely rarely and was never able to get used to it. That is why Raniero seems to have liked the field of flowers and butterflies. The smile still did not appear on his face. A moonless night and a starry sky so low that it seems about to fall. This is the first time the girl experiences such delight, so she asks about methods for discovering this place. There were no noticeable flowers along the way, but this is logical because apparently they weren't even there in the first place. These plants absorb sunlight during the day and emit it at night. Things that bloom where the sun doesn't shine don't shine. The man is well versed in plants, but the most important thing is the benefits that should be there. These flowers seem to have some practical functions. If not for this, the young man would not even be interested in such things. In fact, there is nothing special about them, which incredibly surprises the beauty. She thought there was a hidden meaning there. I can't believe that the emperor just thought that the queen would like the plants. She expresses gratitude. Nodding his head, the blonde confirms his words. He means it, knowing for sure what it took to achieve praise. Virgo wants to ask something else, but asks too many questions, considering that it is time for the couple to return back. Grabbing her cloak in the hope of stopping the man, the girl promises that she will smile if she is given an answer. There definitely must be some other meaning in a flower garden. There must be an answer to this question, which is hidden in the depths of consciousness. The archbishop, like all the other knights, thanks for the help and honor provided. He thanks the god of war for his assistance. There is no need for gratitude. The king orders beds to be prepared for his subordinates and then to go to rest. In other words, this only means that the reserves are bad and unreliable. You can take care of everything yourself. Perhaps this infuriates the interlocutor, but feeding and clothing so many knights is a bit difficult. The higher ones should do everything exactly this way, although they are well aware of the situation in the temple and understand that this is not the best idea. The first step is to prepare housing for the king and his wife. They are the most important and therefore deserve a good reception. Strength is a virtue. Weakness is a vice. Actilus is not to blame for the looting and war in the country, even as a ruler. Angie expresses emotions through strange, brooding emotions. She doesn't even hear the emperor asking something very close by. The pair follows the knights forward. I can't believe that the Thunian temple is located somewhere there, because the surrounding villages look abandoned. A large procession passes by, but none of the residents even think about going out to see what is happening. Some residents are seeing Actilus in person for the first time. He looks like an object of fear because of his personality and all the rumors. The first step is to arrive at the meeting after distribution. There will be a discussion about the location of the animals and the wave level. The blonde leaves the room, saying that he can't wait for the evening when they can meet again. You just have to accept the fact that the man who used to be so explosive is now attracted to the lady. The problem is that if he sees Serafina, his attitude will definitely change. It's a matter of life and death. While the lady was thinking about what to spend the money on and how to find a place after escaping, she was grabbed by a knight who wants to talk. It is, of course, Eden who apologizes. It is forbidden to make loud noises in the temple, so a technique was used. The girl was just looking for a young man. She wants to know where Serafina is staying and if there is a chance that she will be able to run into her during the expedition. Putting his hands forward, the brunette assures that the likelihood of a meeting is almost zero. He took care of it. Even Cha Soo-hyun doesn't need the original story to start too early. The saint went on a tour because Serafina's visit will be an outlet for people tired of the wave. This man is excellent at his job, and it's not hard not to admit it. Solving things is definitely a good option on how to get everything done. The tour will be not only in the city near the temple, but also in the surrounding villages, which are not so close. It will take time to get back. Eden makes the girl rejoice even more. She didn't expect her luck to be so good. The question follows about the Imperial Library. There was no mention of the existence of other worlds or anything else. It seems there is nothing left but to visit that same abandoned temple. There must be at least some answers there. In fact, the heroine begins to doubt that there is at least something there, but losing heart is also not the best option. Before leaving, the young man asks whether the maiden will remain in the temple or will be present on the expedition. Most likely, the beauty will go with the knights. She had not yet decided for sure, but it became clear that the emperor wanted this. The emperor is also coming, and then the lady decides to show her cards. It may sound strange, but he seems to like Angie. Smiling, the man chuckles. This is not news to him, just like it is to everyone else, but the lady falls into a stupor. When they met in the garden, the king seemed to flaunt the fact that he was the husband of the princess. On the day when Eden sent that note with the answer, he even felt somehow embarrassed, because in some part he was lying. The lady is not very tactful. In any case, the original story has changed slightly, which makes the girl worry. She doesn't know what to expect. The brunette is silent, but the pause does not drag on for too long. Perhaps the best option is a complete departure from the original. In this case, I want to know whether the heroine will remain in this world or not. The husband may not feel anything when he meets Serafina. The answer does not form as it should, so the girl falls silent. Everything became clear almost immediately, even then in the garden. The protest is not going away. There is no reason why a lady would want to remain in such conditions on her own. The girl was overwhelmed with emotions from the thought that Raniero liked her. There was no point in showing your emotions. The young man assures that he will accept the choice because the environment is better than anywhere else. The girl is no longer sure of anything, so she doesn't try to scream. If she decides to stay, but the guy needs help, she will help with joy. The thought of what will happen after meeting the saint is spinning in my head. It's safer to assume that this won't happen. The changed Raniero will either cherish the queen the same way or lose all interest. The unknown is scary. There is also plenty of suspicion. If love at first sight happens, then there will definitely be no way out. The lady will be the one who will have to escape. You also can't be sure that the blonde won't get tired of the woman over time, even without Serafina, who could help him with this. If the heroine knew the entire future, she could accurately answer the question posed by Eden, but so far, this is not the case. Now, when Angie thinks about how everyone in the temple is lonely, and this is the only type of bed they have, she is surprised. The girl feels pity. She doesn't know where it even came from, but she tries her best to push it out of her head. In truth, Unro was not happy in her first world. It's easier to say that life was miserable. Reading novels, which cost at most a couple of $100, was my only hobby. The girl had absolutely no friends. Angelica, on the contrary, was a princess who was raised with love and was well educated. She has a friend named Ccn. If you think logically, then you need to leave, but there was not enough time for more thoughts. There's a knock on the door. The heroine completely forgot that she had closed the door. She realized only now that she was not allowing anyone to enter inside. Raniero enters the room. He brought a tray with him, saying that this was food for the Empress who needed strength. The guy noticed that his wife ate almost nothing at dinner. He brought snacks that she loves, which makes her want more. Sitting down on the bed next to the beauty and leaving the plate in the middle, the blonde pricks the delicacy with a fork. The sweet filling is pleasant to the palate and makes you enjoy the taste. From tomorrow, you need to cheer yourself up on your own. Even if the words seem nice, it doesn't matter anymore. This is still the same Raniero Actilus, from whom you cannot expect good things. Until the fear of him completely disappears, you will not be able to let him into your heart. Inspecting the bed after the finished dinner, the hero sighs. It is so small that even one person can hardly fit in. The bed is really meant to be used by only one person. This is the best option to use. This is exactly what the young man is talking about to the Empress. He was going to sleep next to him, but now he's disappointed that it didn't work out. Actylus leans closer. He is about to once again kiss a woman who, as always, must be ready. Shouting aloud, "No!" the lady abruptly pushes her husband away. She doesn't know why she suddenly decided to act boldly. The young man looks surprised, but not yet completely angry. The girl doesn't know what she should do and how to justify herself. The girl was scared, but even before she'd never thought about forbidding him to touch his body. It was not prohibited. Raniero, for sure, was never rejected by anyone from the moment of birth and throughout his life. Now the blow is doubly painful. Until the man comes to his senses, the virgin is going to save her situation. She claims she was just joking, saying she didn't mean anything bad. Surely the young man is already furious, so he remains silent, and as soon as he tries to say her name, she immediately asks for forgiveness for everything she has done. Looking down at the floor, the heroine hopes for punishment, but hears the strangest words. The hero is not even angry with her. Leaning against and hugging Angie, the blonde asks her not to be afraid and not to cry. He wants everything to be fine. Obviously, the hero is really not angry, so the beauty tries to carefully relax so as not to arouse suspicion. The trip was really very difficult, so the best thing Unro can do is go to bed to gain strength. The sleep into which the queen plunged begins as usual. The saint brings the tray, asking to look. Not understanding what's inside, the lady slowly opens the lid. The first thing she notices is someone's hair. Realizing that someone's head is there, the heroine instantly throws the tray onto the floor, while bouncing as far as possible. Next, the mad laughter of the king is heard, who asks if Unro still wants to stay in this world forever. Confidence should have dissipated 100 times already, because the foot is placed on the head of Eden, who also suffered. The cloak falls from the saint's head, only to reveal to the light the face of Seraphina, who looks with glassy eyes. Behind her stands her husband, who looks at Angie with much the same look. She is his winter prey. It's strange that the Raniero and Seraphina from the past behaved this way. It seems that the girl wants to say something, but nothing is heard. It's as if someone is hitting me in the face with something. The heroine instantly opens her eyes, realizing exactly where she is at the moment. Noticing the young man's face just a few centimeters away from her, the girl almost jumps up and starts screaming. The beauty had a nightmare. That's all she can say for now. I wouldn't want to know what it's like again. It's strange that the lady wanted to run away even in her sleep. Raniero held his wrist tightly because the lady began to grab herself by the neck. If the man had not stopped what was happening, it is unclear how exactly it would all have ended. It's scary to even imagine. On this day, it was finally time to go to the temple. You need to look for information and forget about staying in this world. The archbishop, who meets the arrivals, asks how the beauty slept. She thanks them for asking, saying everything was great. With the help of the god Actilla, the man was able to sleep for an hour. This is already progress, because usually even this is not enough. Changing the topic, the girl immediately becomes interested in what is important to her. She wants to know where they will go, and it turns out to be the northwest. They will arrive at the old temple. It is close to the border, but now it is the land of demonic beasts, so this is the end. You don't need to say anything for the lady to understand that they are going to return everything exactly as it was before. Borders will be restored. Bringing the premises back to Tunia would be a huge boost to morale, which has fallen noticeably lately. This was the idea of the most loyal paladin. The archbishop is amazed to see such deep faith among young people. The emperor appears again at the most inopportune moment. He wants to know if the empress will go with them today. Worries about what happened the night before the hike, but this is not a reason to worry. Virgo feels great. The temple worries Angie a little, and it would be easier to stay in human territory, but there is still no choice. Before making a decision, the queen knows how long it will take. In total, it takes about 2 weeks. The heroine knows that she will definitely be in the old temple today, but she will have to wait 2 weeks, which is unthinkable. If you look from the other side, without paying attention to Raniero, there will be about 2 weeks to study everything properly. The enslavement team will pass through the temple and move on. If you visit a place every day, you can learn more than Eden. The heroine promises that she will have a good rest. She just wants His Majesty to return soon, so that she doesn't have to be bored. If the lady goes, she will only be a burden. She thinks that she will hold the ruler back from what needs to be done on the expedition. The arrival time might be delayed because of the beauty, but she doesn't want that. It is immediately clear that the best solution is to stay at home. A man must finish his work. That's all, because afterwards she wants to accompany His Highness to the imperial palace. All this is needed to return to their common home, the Actylus Empire. Everyone wants only this now. Getting ready to leave, in order not to give in to his feelings, The young man promises that he will return as quickly as possible. Now there is calm. The blonde has left, and we can begin the very plan that has long been prepared. The lady is very interested in the God of Mercy, to the point that she looked for information in the library. She wants to enter the temple. It makes sense to visit the old premises when possible. A promise is made not to touch anything with your hands. The Holy Knights did not join the Society of the Knights of Actilus. According to them, they are terrible, and their anticipation can touch your hands. Considering how the expedition is progressing, it does not appear that Raniero was experiencing great joy. He frowns the whole way. The Empress did not go with him, so one can only wonder how she managed to make such a person feel this way. Eden is thoughtful. It looks as if the Queen is deliberately provoking the young man to test his feelings. The current impression differs from what was formed about the character in the novel. The description was exaggerated. Thoughts are interrupted by the screams that can be heard. The Knights of Tunia grab their swords, hoping they can resist. The Emperor managed to defeat the influx of monsters single-handedly, and in just a short period of time that had passed. This man is only getting better before our eyes. The brunette clearly did not appreciate him, because he is much better than even in the novel. As soon as the animals appeared, the blonde did not wait for anyone else, jumped forward and fought with all of them. The demonic beasts have not stopped breathing yet. The young man made the mistake that the battle was already over, so the king raised his sword, ordering him to attack. It didn't take much effort for Eden to realize that Raniero was a master of his craft. They are professionals. The further the delegation is from Angelica, the more it seems to the main character that something is awakening inside the guy. The old temple already appeared on the horizon. One of the knights notices that there are eggs surrounding the entire perimeter of the estate. That's why the animal scouting was so close. They protect their children, which is completely natural. Some eggs have already hatched. The young man asks if any of them have ever seen a demonic beast hatch in front of them. If this is not true, then on this very day, everything will become clear. The blonde is sure that this will not be the end of the end. The hero begins to feel sick from what is happening. The king orders everyone to be killed, except mothers, who will still be needed. Raniero is definitely crazy because he showed himself in such a way. He acts like he doesn't care what he does. First, Actilus finished off the monsters without hesitation, and now he is having fun with the eggs. In this hellish battle, all methods are good. The Holy Knight doesn't understand why he should wait for the eggs to hatch. The blonde says the obvious, but then it won't be as fun. While the conversation continued, one of Actilus's warriors came running to announce the imminent hatching. He started killing them. The babies were born, but did not attack. It sounds strange, but they mistook a group of warriors for their own, so they behaved this way. It's better that way, because then you just have to keep giving the eggs a chance to hatch. If so, they will continue to be mistaken for food and mothers. Eden decided not to listen to the rest of the conversation, so he almost immediately headed to the place where the eggs were. Everyone takes turns on duty until they hatch, but the place seems too nasty. The hero could not even imagine such a thing. No cracks were noticed on the shell. This means that the babies will not hatch so soon, and they have time. The guy had time to explore everything around. Half an hour later, he wandered into the library nearby. For some reason, the brunette had previously hoped that the room would be larger. There are too few books here to study the matter. Freezing in the middle of the corridor, the man examines the door that appears nearby. It is made of stone. There's a passage inside, but it is quite narrow. There's even something written on the doorknob. When Actilus's blood is ready, the door will be opened with Tunia's sword. We are talking about the heir of his grandfather, Raniero. The brunette thinks about the sword. He doesn't know anything about him, but he knows for sure that he can look for information in the archives. One of the knights appeared in the doorway, extremely indignant. The eggs are about to hatch, and they have time to kill them. Nodding his head, the guy agrees to go, trying to ignore the question of what exactly he was looking at there. All suspicions fall on a simple wall, but this is not a funny joke, so the brunette quickly follows him forward. Surprise overtakes the handsome man faster than he is about to leave. Obviously, only he was able to see something special. 2 days have passed since the army left. There is news that they managed to enslave the monsters faster than expected. The maiden came to the infirmary because the wounded knights were sent out first. Cha Su-hyun is not here, which already makes things easier. For some reason, each of them arrived in poor condition. It seems that the grip was heavy, but in fact it is not at all like that. The goal was terrible, but Actilus's operation seems much more incomprehensible to such ordinary people. Raniero set knights to guard the eggs in the temple, and when they hatched, he fed them to their mothers and children and killed them. The girl blinks her eyes in surprise. She did not think about what her husband might come up with to achieve his goal. Sylvia interrupts the conversation with her clumsiness. She accidentally drops a bottle of medicine while asking for forgiveness. Calling Sisian, the queen asks to monitor the infirmary for at least some time while she is away. The knights must be thirsty. The virgin promises to bring something to drink, asking Sylvia to come along with her. The heroine doesn't know if everything is okay with the lady. She looks tired, but if someone tells her to rest, she won't be happy. Stopping in the middle of the corridor, the blonde suddenly asks why Her Majesty cares about her so much. The girl is the daughter of a traitor. She should have died, but instead she was shown mercy. They treat her too well. The words are mixed into one incomprehensible mess because the lady does not understand what they want from her. She won't treat you badly. The maid must hate the Empress and believe that she is the reason for Marcus's downfall. It doesn't work like that, and only now it became clear that both of them had absolutely no reason to hate. The girl shuddered in the infirmary because, listening to the story about the animals, she remembered how she killed her own mother. Leaving her hand on the woman's shoulder, Angie asks her not to continue. She understands perfectly well that this conversation is unpleasant for both. Feelings come out. The girl grabs the Empress's body and presses closer, starting to sob. Watching Sylvia cry in her friend's arms, she felt unity and could understand her, as her emotions simply could no longer be contained. The fact that Jacques has shown her weaknesses means that she likely has a lot of trust. It's impossible to say for sure. The heroine regrets that His Majesty chose such a strategy, thereby destroying Sylvia's good fortune. Your own entertainment comes first, and that's a fact. A man does not care about his friends, because he cares about himself. His Majesty, in fact, cares about the Empress, but nothing more. This is something that even Jacques herself noticed. As a candidate for the role of queen, the girl has studied everything, and the only person Raniero cares about is her. Considering the character of the man, the girl could not become such a person. You don't have to think about it so much. Doing something that is difficult is not the best option when you can choose something easier. The very idea of taking revenge on Raniero Actilus is absurd. If she tried something like that again, it was hard to imagine what would happen. I didn't want Sylvia to accidentally get what she deserved while trying to defeat an emperor who wouldn't care. Angie was convinced that the maid was on her side, but she could not even imagine that so much anger was boiling inside. Once they reached Thunia, they became much closer to the temple. Now the delegation is very close to the border, where there are no animals. The next day, the lady and the archbishop went to the recaptured sanctuary. Everything went according to plan, as promised. Having arrived there, the priest began to cleanse the battle site so that unnecessary things and bodies would no longer lie there. Everyone around is just screaming about the cruelty of the past battle, which, if you look at it, doesn't seem so terrible. The sanctuary is completely dirty. I don't want to admit it, but it would have been better if they had won it back much earlier. The whole reason is revelation. We are talking about the very revelation that was given by the gods of Thunia. It had to be followed in perfect order. The God of Mercy always makes his voice heard through the saints. It is impossible to tell all the details, since this is a secret within the walls of the temple. Revelation is what is given to the saints. This is why it is considered so important to Thunia. They go to the library. Entering the premises, the heroine cannot believe her eyes. She asks again if she really can read any book she wants. Books that cannot be shown to outsiders have already been moved to the current library, so that everyone can look. What the archbishop means is that there are no longer the forbidden books that Unro was looking for. Cha Su-hyun was wrong. No one knows what will happen, or what exactly can be found, so the best option is to just look at the shelves. The size of the library is much more meager than the imperial one, but the lady began to visit the sanctuary every day. It is difficult to read due to the poor text and the condition of the books. No suspicious books were found. This is because all the most important books were moved to the temple, which cannot be entered. A strange book fell in the distance down the corridor. The cover is a little faded, but the contents are still readable. Reading the title, Angelica freezes. The title reads, "Flowers grow even in the abyss," just like the book they are in. It is written on the pages that the godson of the god of war robbed the saint of the god of mercy. The knights of Actilus encountered a blizzard and were forced to retreat. Seraphina heard the voice of the god Thunia that an important guest was coming to them and began to wait for him since it was Raniero. When the girl read, she did not know all this. It comes to the point where the Empress's head rolled on the floor. The blonde turns to the saint, saying that the empire now becomes her home. She begs to be taken back because she wants to be home. The brunette becomes Empress Actilus. There is no choice, just like there is no way back, so the young man grins. The heroine falls to her knees. She tries to hold back the flow of emotions, but she is too scared from everything she read. Perhaps the lady is now so discouraged because she is rereading the real story after spending time with Raniero in reality. Just like the Empress in Eden, the Emperor dies as a result of Serafina's revenge. She was left with nothing, and this would happen in the coming winter. The author's review does not happen in such books, but the maiden tries to find what was said at the end, since it is quite important. There is an unchanging law in the world in which they find themselves. Godson Actylus has no choice but to be possessed by Serafina. The people around and their relationships have changed, but the godson himself will meet and fall in love with the saint no matter what. The note was written specifically for a girl who is looking for answers. Angie no longer knows what to do to save herself. It became clear that we needed to run. All this time the beauty was deceiving herself because of Raniero's kindness. Bowing her head, Angie curses the day she got there, and the emperor himself, who behaves this way. A man's voice calls his wife, and she gets scared. The blonde arrived at the library in armor to meet. Most likely the young man went to the temple, but found no one there, so he returned here. The heroine asks for forgiveness for missing. The archbishop said that the trip would take more than 2 weeks. This is not something that should have been said at the first meeting. Bending over, the man tries to look over his shoulder to notice the book. He asks what the queen is reading, since it is not a simple set of rules. The man heard the heroine curse someone from the book, so he doesn't understand how this could be connected in principle. Panic creeps up unnoticed. The girl doesn't know what she should do, because she doesn't know how exactly to explain the origin of the book. The young man chuckles. My wife said that this was a doctrine book, but in the end it was not. She herself doesn't quite understand what it says. It was interesting what exactly the heroine was looking at, but there were just blank pages that didn't matter. Now I want to laugh, because this is the most useless activity in such a place. The Empress was completely bored. Nodding her head, the lady allows the man to turn around and leave. She doesn't understand why he can't see the contents of the book. Already leaving the temple, the couple stops. The hero asks if the friend remembers what she said 10 days ago. The girl is trying to remember. He offered to go on an expedition with him, and after the story he was upset. Finally, those very words come to mind, because the girl asked to quickly finish work and return to the imperial palace. On that day, words were spoken about our house, which most likely struck the young man to the depths of his soul. The girl did not think that he would not forget something like this. She hoped that everything would end as soon as everything returned to normal, as it should be. Perhaps the young man returned earlier precisely because of this. She walks forward, intertwining her hands to show how much she missed you. Looking into the man's eyes, the maiden asks if they can go home. It's late, but it's available at any time. A couple is sitting on the bed talking. Angie asks if Raniero liked the expedition. There were a lot of eggs in the old temple. The first thing the cubs smell is the smell of the mother, and all living things besides the mother are food. That is why the young man made the smell of the knights maternal, and threw their real mothers to feed them on the very first day. After that, they took the northern base and infiltrated the temple. The cubs ate their own kind without hesitation. It would be great to see such a funny scene live. The method seems to be effective, but it seems that Eden suffered greatly from it. In order not to think about it, the beauty presses her whole body against the man's chest. The girl is tired, so they go to bed. It's still difficult to fall asleep because different thoughts come into your head. Angie likes Raniero, and this makes it even more difficult to escape than before. It is impossible to deceive your husband, because if you start moving away, he will quickly notice everything. The lie will be exposed in a matter of minutes. A lady must love a man with all her heart until he goes on an expedition. You can't think about leaving him at any moment. The next day, it turned out that the couple was returning to the empire on the same day. The lady herself wanted it, but not so quickly. The queen feels doomed. She wanted to share the story with Cha Soo-hyun so that he could try looking for more in the library. One could try to convince Actylus, but if he is stubborn like a sheep, it will be extremely difficult to convince him. The beauty can't do anything even if she tries. She gave up in advance because she understands that nothing can be done to help her. There is only one option left, and it is the best. She may ask Sisian to do what is planned, because someday she will have to find out about everything. The woman hands the book to the maid, saying that she accidentally took it from the old temple. She needs to be brought back in time. There is no point in worrying about Raniero, because the lady only instructs her faithful maid to do a simple job. The schedule has moved a little. We need to let all the maids know that the queen is returning back to the palace very soon. The heroine was not too rude and tried to remain in the shadows so that no one would suspect anything. Let's just hope that this is the case. His Majesty approaches from behind. Without losing vigilance, the beauty asks if everything is prepared for the trip home. Virgo is glad that they will soon be in the castle. She is also glad that the man came out safe and sound back to her. Sisian handed the novella to Eden. The queen asked for the book to be returned to the shrine because she accidentally forgot to return it herself. The brunette nods. He is glad that the beauty found a way to contact him, so he considers it necessary to try to read the message. The maid still cannot get used to what she was told. Angie plans to escape from the Empire with the knight. The woman found the book they were in and a note from the author, but the emperor saw only blank pages. The brunette himself sees the same thing. Slamming the volume, the hero asks to tell the queen that he sees nothing. The maid doesn't hold back, asking what kind of relationship she and Unro are on. There is nothing special, but Her Majesty is planning to run away with this man in December. In truth, the young man thought that his acquaintance would remain in Actilus, but the right decision was made faster. It's still strange for a maid. The lady adapted to the Empire and got used to Raniero, but now everything is changing. This is true, but so far everything looks exactly as it should. All this time, Angie played the game to the public. The hero no longer knows what to do. Perhaps the best option would be to convince the beauty, but he doesn't know how. Finally, starting the story, the young man says that there is a prophecy that the emperor will kill his wife in the same way as Eden. The prophecy is not from the god Tunya, but simply what these two received from completely different people who remade it. When the paladins of Tunya arrived in Actilus, the lady recognized Cha. She contacted him and told him about her prediction. The girl has many restrictions because of the emperor, but he seems to like her very much. In any case, this is not happiness. That is why the queen sent the maid to meet the knight. She trusts Sisian, so she told the whole truth as best she could. Surely Unro wanted to be in touch with Eden as often as possible while she was in Tunya, but she had nothing to worry about because the brunette was also going to Actilus.